I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I kiss you on the mouth.
No, I'm not cool with that. I'm sorry.
One more time.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I mean, I'm dealing with degenerate animals.
I'm disappointed in every one of you. Disappointed in every one of you.
All right, come on.
Honestly, I can't do it, man.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
Let me tell you why.
It's gonna be all right, Nicky. Go ahead, shoot.
He just killed a fucking man.
What are you going to do about it, asshole?
Don't be afraid. It's just an asshole.
What are you going to do about it, asshole? What are you going to do about it, asshole?
Welcome everybody to another BD Boxing Podcast, broadcasting to you live from the True North. This is your host, Mr. BDA, flying solo for the moment. Hopefully we can remedy that within the next following minutes. But before we get down to the fun, let's get the business out of the way, fellas. Thank you for joining us. We are going to be covering last night's fights. A little bit of everything for everybody. If you liked clinching and running, oh boy, did we have a fight for you last night. We also had a young'un stepping up and leaving his mark in the welterweight division, and a little grudge match as well. So let's get started with that. And by the way, before we do that, don't forget a big shout out to everybody that's joined the BD membership club. Really appreciate it. You are joining the good fight so that we can right the wrongs of this heathen society that is disintegrating before our eyes. So shout out to you fellas. Don't forget, if you got a couple of shekels that you can wire our way, you can certainly do so with the super chat feature. But the most important thing is you continue to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and to continue spreading the BDA gospel. So shout out to Aaron Kuko, a guy whose name let's call it what it is, Pussy. Leroy, Triple JJJ, Trill Ballins, Aaron Kuko, Renegade Sensei, Jay Perez, Philippe Burka, Fight Film, aka Precise, Flip, Mad Max, Mr. E, Recognize in there as well, Jay Perez, Uncle Burnt Apostrophe, Blue Collar Sports TV, check out Blue Collar Sports TV, aka Del Boy, and his other channel, Disturbed Reality, which is all about gruesome stuff that you can find on the internet. He breaks it down for you. He gives you a little backstory on that. Very entertaining channel, check it out. Shout out to the Quags, not Triple JJJ, Official Scorecard Boxing. Shout out to Official Scorecard Boxing, check out his channel as well. The Coup d'etat Boxing. He breaks down fights like nobody else in the boxing community. Check out Eric Roses. Shout out to Eric Roses, the Quacks, Al Sharpton's Boxing Fat Cheeseburger Nation. All right, well, listen, thank you for joining us, fellas. Let me just say this. Why are we talking about Rigondeaux first when we had Virgil Ortiz, who appears to be a bright star in the boxing landscape? Well, it's because it's time to take out the trash. And that is Rigondeaux is trash. And so are, I hate to say it, but these people that are coming in saying, well, it's called boxing, it's called hit, not get hit, this and that. You guys don't, I'm sorry to say. You know what? I'm going to be opening up the phone lines in about 30 minutes. And I want to hear, maybe you know more about boxing than I do. I'm not being sarcastic, I'm not being obnoxious, I'm not being ironic. Maybe you do know, and I'm curious to hear what you guys had to say. But when you spend, in Rigondeaux's case, when he spends his time running and not hitting, that's not called boxing. Even a guy like Devin Haney, who's a boxer, and some people consider him a born boxer, he doesn't run around the ring. He actually stands. In fact, that's what kind of got him in trouble a little bit against Linares, because he was putting pressure, and he's really not used to that. He's not wired for that. And by the way, the people that are saying that, no, Rigondeaux schooled Casimero, are you going to give Lomachenko points then too for not doing anything in the early rounds against Teofimo Lopez? I think you should. And if you're not, you're a bunch of hypocrites. You're fugazi, like they say, the Italians say. And you know what? You might even be a fanoik, like the Italians say. That's a gay guy, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, listen, I got a lot to say, but I don't want to spend my time alone here saying it. So let me invite a couple of people here. See what we got. Let's start cooking with some oil, some grease. And like I said, we're going to be opening up the phone line. So let me get Boxing Chief in here as well. The only thing I dislike about doing these early shows is I don't think Gonzalo is available at this time. Hold on a second. Hey, wait a minute. All right, give me 2 seconds here. I'm inviting people, trying to get the best of the best. Crème de la crème, as we say. All right. For some reason, all right. And by the way, I got a couple of points that I'm going to read in case I miss anything. All right, what the fuck is this? All right, listen, I'm going to see what's... I'm going to read a couple of comments before I get down to the main points, because I'm curious to hear what people have to say. Neil Simpson says he's the right kind of Cuban, that's why they're defending him. I get exactly what you're saying there, Neil. Uncle Burnt the Process says, could Rigo pull in more bank from turning his talents to cross-country? I bet he could. I think he could. I don't want a channel says, Rigo just made Haney's stock go up. Absolutely. Triple J says, cooking with some Italian oil, a.k.a. their sweat. Ah, come on. Wait a minute. Leroy says Rigo spanked him. I know Leroy's a troll. Flips Mad Max says perhaps Shakur Stevenson too. I'd put that dude up in there. See, that's the thing. Shakur Stevenson is also another boring guy who admitted himself that, oh, this guy, you know, the last guy he fought, the African dude, Shakur Stevenson said something of the ilk of, look, I got hurt and I didn't really want to risk it. But at least he's not moving around the ring nonstop. Fight Film says, people criticizing Casimero, I'm sorry your boyfriend castrated you. You know what? That's essentially what it was last night. It was a visual and pugilistic castration. That's what Rigondeaux does. Now, listen. Hold on a second. We got more comments. The Quack says Rigondeaux could bust a grape with a hammer. What the fuck was that? Give me a break. Actually, Rigondeaux he packs quite a punch in that left hand of his, which makes it all the more disappointing that he chooses to run around the ring. Look, he was scared, bottom line. But I'm gonna get into that later. Alvin Bautista says one judge in favor of Rigondeaux is tolerating that kind of fight. That's why it's more exciting to watch MMA than boxing nowadays. Asian Sensation says Rigo versus Usain Bolt. Not says you don't win fights averaging 3 punches around on back foot. Yeah, okay, now let me get down to the points here, the main points that I've got. What Rigondeaux did, let's just get out of the way. What Rigondeaux did last night was running. When you're moving unnecessarily for most of the fight without punching, that is the definition of running in boxing. Okay, especially when you make a guy miss and you run all the way across the ring and you're not even in position to counter. That's not boxing. That's not hitting and stick and move. That's called running, fellas. Let's stop the BS here. All these fucking all these boxing black belt wannabes, all these boxing hipsters. Hey man, he put on a beautiful display of boxing. He made a miss obviously because he wouldn't stop. Anybody can make the other guy miss if you move nonstop. It's like when I used to play dodgeball as a kid. Who am I kidding? I still play dodgeball. I go to the play yards and I fucking ram a ball down a kid's mouth, man. Knock him down. That's what I do. I'm a bully. But listen, when you were playing dodgeball and there was always that one guy who would dodge everything. I know it's called dodgeball, but you're also supposed to try to catch it out every once in a while. It's no fun if you're just dodging everything. You can't hit a target that's constantly moving. It's impossible. Now, running for most of the fight while throwing 5 punches around, fellas, that means you're not in control of the fight. And listen, Fight Scout, we were watching the fights on Discord, and Fight Scout made a very astute comment that I think bears repeating over and over on this broadcast. Casimero was the one that's actually controlling the fight too. You got to give him credit. Yes, he was missing a lot because he doesn't know how to feint and he just barges in there. But because of his aggressiveness, he was making Rigondeaux run. It's not that Rigondeaux decided to run and that was the whole thing. Rigondeaux wasn't moving that much in the first round. Then he got clipped and he said, oh boy, he had two choices to make. Either fight a little bit more like he did against Ceja or just all out run. And that's the other thing. It's not an either or situation. These boxing hipsters, black belt wannabes, that's the way they paint it. It's like, oh, well, it's not about slugging. It's called boxing stick and move. It's called hit and not get hit. It's called the sweet science. It's not an either or situation where you either stand in front of a guy like as if you're in a tough man contest or you move around the ring completely running. You can do a little. Bernard Hopkins wasn't running as Trinidad. He was moving a lot, but he was also making him pay. That's the sweet science. running around the ring nonstop. That's like an autistic kid that went nuts in a bus, and he's slamming his head against everything he can see and everybody he can see up and down the bus. I've seen that happen. It's disturbing, and that's why I was disturbed from what Rigondeaux did. Casimero is at fault for not being able to do more, absolutely. But it's hard to do something when the other guy's on the defensive nonstop. And that's the reason why we rarely see world-class fighters against a runner. The last time I remember a guy running that way against a world-class fighter was Durrell versus Curtis Stevens or Morad Hakkar versus Hopkins. That was all the way back in 2003. Because most fighters aren't bold enough to just all-out run. It's disturbing. Now, just because Rigondeaux was making Casimero miss, that doesn't mean he was controlling anything. Because whenever he was throwing, he was missing too. It's not like he was controlling the fight and every time he let his hands go, he was clipping Casimero. He was missing. Because Casimero, he's got underrated defense himself, good reflexes. And he was getting backed up, Rigondeaux. In other words, if somebody's making you run that way, the way Casimero was making him, that means he was being controlled. Get that through your head, fucking boxing hipsters. Fight Film says, I say this with love. If you think Rigo was masterful or won, please eat a pound of raw kidney beans. Well, I don't know what really kidney beans are, but if there's something bad, then yes, these people deserve that. Look, I understand you want to try to be a boxing hipster. You want to stand out. You want to make it seem as if you know what's what. You get the inside scoop. You got the inside scoop on shit. That's what you've got. I'm sorry to be this crude and crass early in the day, especially on the day of our Lord, but I mean, this guy is... Now, somebody made the comment in the chat. Somebody said, and by the way, I'm inviting people. I don't know if you're catching my messages here. Maybe I should start again. I know, I did create a group here. Alright, so hopefully people jump in. Endgame Sensei, what they have to say, LOL. The Cubans? No, they just don't... They're not going to say anything. And I'm going to show you a couple of visuals just to drive that point home. But here's the other thing. To show you guys that Casimero was controlling Rigondeaux a little bit was that whenever he did get too close or in range and Rigo couldn't move anymore, he wouldn't even counter. He would clinch. You guys know this. If one guy's moving around the ring nonstop and then when the other guy finally gets close to him and the other guy clinches, that's usually a good indication that the guy is scared and that he can't do much and that he's not in control of the fight. So people say, well, Rigondeaux was making him miss. Yeah, so was Casimero. Are you going to give him points for that? Again, this ain't amateur boxing. If the other guy's making you move excessively and nobody's really landing that much, then guess what? One judge is liable to give the aggressor the fight. You don't win points by making a guy miss, all right? That's the other thing boxing hipsters and black belt wannabes have to get into their head. That whole legend myth of Willie Pep winning a round because on defense, that probably never happened. You probably believe in Sasquatch too. You want a Sasquatch wife. Fucking perverts. Rigondeaux wasn't moving all that much early on, by the way. Like I said. It's the pressure that Casimero put on early on. That's what told him, well, you know what, maybe I don't move more. Because he was scared. And by the way, everybody that says, oh, Casimero's... Rigondeaux's not scared. Look, this sentiment or this spirit of noble spirit of, always propping up fighters, all boxers, because they step into in between the ropes. I got a news for you. There's a lot of boxers out there that are cowards too. Just because you step in the ring in a moment of well, I got to do this and I got to do this for the money. Once you get in there, you can turn into a coward too, which is what Rigondeaux did last night. He won 2 gold medals in the amateurs. Whoop-de-doo. Look, okay, that's a big accomplishment, but that's 3 rounds too. Put it in perspective. Bottom line is he was scared, fellas. And it's not the first. There's a precedent to this. He quit against Lomachenko. He fought that same way on the undercard of Cotto Canelo against some dude that was completely outclassed. He didn't even try to string together at more than 2 punches. He was running against that guy. He also put a horrible performance against Agbeko not that long ago. So there's a precedent here, man. And if you're running, by the way, you're not giving yourself the benefit of the doubt with the judges. Ronnie Shields told Rigondeaux, you got to be more active. What does that tell you? His own trainer. And after the fight, Rigondeaux said, the first thing I saw in one of his interviews, maybe there was another one, maybe somebody can correct me here, but the first thing he said he admitted that he looked bad. Usually if a guy feels that he got robbed, he really believes it, he'll say, oh, I got robbed. No, he said, it wasn't my best fight, blah, blah, blah. Now he's on Twitter apparently saying, This guy said he was going to turn my face off. I'm not a punching bag. Really? You're proud of that performance? So just to reiterate, to those of you that are saying that Rigo outclassed Casimero, the main point is that Casimero actually forced Rigondeaux to fight a safety-first, minimally offensive style. Okay? So the best defense for Rigondeaux is not to say that he schooled Casimero, because that just makes you look like a retard, all right? The best defense you can do for Rigondeaux is to say that nobody really got outclassed.
But they're accommodating.
Who do we got here?
Only you.
1 second.
All right, Boxing Chief, I'm gonna. It's at a restaurant. He's at a church function or something. Let me invite. Okay, Jimmy. He's for some reason is not receiving my invites. Yo, Chief, when you're ready, unmute yourself, all right, man? I'm holding the fort down here. Let's see what people have to say in the chat room. Mayweather and Rigondeaux kill boxing, says Boxing Nation PH. Ron Mitchell says running equal losing points. Felipe Percha says Rigo left without his corner. I'm pretty sure his trainer was pissed off. Yeah, that's what I saw. I saw Rigondeaux walking away real fast. Maybe he was scared that somebody was going to come collect, if you know what I mean. That's why he was walking so fast. But even Ronnie Shields told him, look, you gotta do something in there. I'm telling you, there's too many press. If anybody really feels that Rigondeaux schooled Casimero, call in. We're going to be opening up the phone line soon. And you let us know you school us.
And let me talk to him too, because I want to know who actually thinks that was scientific boxing. I would love to know. I mean, I understand. I appreciate his head movement when he was avoiding some contact. Mm-hmm. But when your entire fight is moving away in a contact combat martial arts sport of prize fighting, which is what the boxing is, sweet hit, not get hit, word whatever you want to, however you want to. You're about putting on entertainment in a combat sport to see something of contact. When your whole game is to avoid all of that, then his purse should even be somewhat considered being withheld.
You know what?
Okay.
I wouldn't go that far, but I understand the sentiment. I certainly do. By the way, I forgot to read Recognize's super chat real quick. Shout out to Recognize, who says, watching Rigondeaux run is less eventful than watching paint dry. Let me tell you something. I was actually watching paint dry last night. I was alternating between the two just to stay awake. Shout out to Recognize for his contribution, man. Yeah, listen, Chief, and we got Jimmy too as well. Jimmy, two guys that know their boxing. I mean, you won't catch Boxing Chief and Jimmy slipping. So I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. Am I crazy in saying that last night's performance from Rigondeaux was awful?
No.
Oh, you going, Chief?
I just gave a one-word answer, but I've already said a few things. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Okay, brother. Thank you. Yeah, no, if I was listen, promoters, at the end of the day, it's a business. It's about making money. It's a sports entertainment. Okay? The promoter of that event last night, whoever got stiff for that, I'll tell you right now, any promoter going forward, I just saw a tweet, was perfect. They should call him the Magic Man, because that dude makes TV ratings, audience members disappear. Seriously, like that's toxic to the sport. That's just, I mean, the only thing I was like, oh, wow, I was impressed even the slightest bit about Rigondeaux was the fact that his, being able to, a couple of years away from collecting Social Security, he can run a marathon like that. He was turning his back almost at some points. And again, okay, look at, and another thing, if you could say, wow, he could make, no matter how good you are as a fighter, do that, that's a different story. But when he's in there against someone like Lomachenko, do you notice he didn't even try any of that shit?
Exactly.
Lomachenko would have cut the ring off and put a beating on him. So he didn't even bother trying that. He took advantage of an unskilled tough man competition winner.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, we do have to acknowledge the fact that JC, I don't know how to say his name very well, but with all these guys with the last name starts with C, I get them all mixed up in my head. But JC is a 3 or 4 division champion. He's a strong guy, but his skill level, his technique is what kind of hurts him in this situation. So being objective, and it's not easy for me to do because I've never been a fan of Rigondeaux or most of the Cuban fighters due to their mentality. I could see someone calling it a straight up draw because Casimero, I believe is his name, couldn't get anything done. I mean, that's his fault. He couldn't cut the ring off. He couldn't land a punch. He wouldn't work for the body and work his way up. That is his fault. That's not Rigondeaux's fault. That's as far as I'm going to go to defend Rigondeaux. But you can't just necessarily give him the win off the fact he has no skill. But so I could see a solid draw, but I can't see any realm of reality where you can give 7 rounds to Rigondeaux.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But let me tell you this, though, Chief. I got a little bit of a retort to that whole thing about Casimero. Yeah, Casimero was unskilled in there. He wasn't setting up his offense. Please, Chief, mute your mic, please. Please. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
You got the Hell's Angels in the background. Listen, Casimero. Yeah, he's unskilled. He doesn't set up his attack with feints and all that. But like Fight Scout said last night, he made a very salient point. He said he made Rigondeaux fight that way. In essence, he was dictating the pace because he was the one that forced Rigondeaux to run around like a spastic. So in essence, if you want to flip the script, you could say Casimero forced him that way, and he was the one controlling the pace. And you got to give him.
I'm sure that's why they want.
I don't fully argue
that's
with
why
that.
they gave him the fight.
I don't fully argue with that, but the effectiveness, the fact that he had no idea how to make himself effective with all the ring experience he's got, and was he really forcing Rigondeaux to be that way, or was Rigondeaux choosing most of the time to do that?
I think he forced him because in the first round he wasn't moving as much, which is what you would expect, right? From Rigondeaux to move around, then maybe settle down a little bit more. No, he was actually ready to counter. Then he tasted Casimero's power, and he said, "You know what? I want to stay away from this guy as much as possible." And Casimero was ineffective, but so was Rigondeaux. He wasn't landing anything because Casimero forced him to stay on the back foot. So all these people that are saying, "Well, Casimero was Rigondeaux's masterful," nah. He wasn't masterful. He was forced to run, and he couldn't land squat. Neither, like Chief said, at worst or at best, however you want to see it, neither guy did enough to win. But don't defend Rigondeaux and say that he put on a masterclass because he did not.
Exactly. I'm gonna have to call back in a minute. But I will be back.
That's fine, man. That's fine. And by the way, real quick, shout out to Felipe Percha, who just became a loyal member of the BDA Boxing Club. Shout out to Felipe Percha. Really appreciate it. Jimmy, sorry, you were going to say something?
Oh, no, I was going to say that, listen, if you have to give the fight, personally, I would have called it a draw. I mean, one guy landed 47 punches in Casimero, and I believe Rigondeaux landed 44. On principle, they probably gave it to Casimero because they at least attempted to make it a fight. Mm-hmm. I'm not opposed to fucking holding back his contract, his money, because the reason being, dude, you're signed on to make under the premise that it's supposed to be entertaining. You could probably get a judge to say, yeah, you deliberately did it's a fight at the end of the day. Okay, people are there to see a fight. And the fact to have Rigondeaux sitting there with that goofy-ass smirk at the end of the fight, this is my, the skills God gave me. Hey, fuck out of here, dude. Seriously. Fucking screw. And anybody who's backing that up now, it's because at one point they used to fucking ride his jock, and now they don't have the integrity to say, yeah, Jesus, I was wrong. That dude is toxic to the sport of boxing. And it's up to the rest of the fucking sport to do what HBO did. Cut him loose. Mm-hmm. He needs to go away, get throttled by the Cuban community for all the dudes he robbed down there. I mean, this dude's been robbing motherfuckers since he made the swim.
And you know what, Jimmy? Excellent point. And just to add to that, because I know there's somebody that's going to try to make it racial, HBO did the same thing to the Vladimir Klitschko, who was boring as well. So let's not start making it out to be a racial thing. This was fucking Vladimir Klitschko was boring too, and he got kicked out of HBO. And it's the same thing with Rigondeaux. And
they'll make it racial because they have nothing to stand on.
Exactly. And not for nothing, but look, Rigondeaux, this is why he never got any of the paydays that he wanted. Because he made and you know what? Somebody in the comment section said, and I actually thought about this during the fight, is it possible that there's something mentally wrong with Rigondeaux, that he actually thinks he's schooling these guys and that he's being
he can't take a shot. He doesn't have a great chin. Obviously, he doesn't trust his chin to take big shots. He took one off the top of the dome, and whether, Casimero was still clubbing him when he was going to his knee, that fucking punch put his mid on the ground. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, for a guy who's got great balance and great foot, you got down, but your fucking glove on the ground. Should have been ruled as a knockdown because he took a shot off the back of the head because he was ducking down. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I agree 100% with you, BDA, that you called it perfectly. He tasted the power, and he just didn't want to taste it again. His own corner was plead with him. You got to do something, dude. You got to throw some punches. Man. Yeah, he quit by running. Exactly.
Yeah,
excellent point recognized.
If they would have scored this fight a draw, it would have been a catastrophe. He didn't win by scoring criteria, by any real scoring criteria, not sympathy points, not this hipster points, not this I watch basketball and I equate that to boxing points. No, none of that stuff. I'm talking about real boxing. He lost every single round, and the referee should have stopped that fight or disqualified Rigo for excessive running. He was running.
And he got knocked down. Let's not forget he got knocked down.
Yeah, he got knocked down. He quit.
What's up, guys?
Just like he quit against Loma. He just made it obvious, right, that he quit.
You know, recognize you said that during the fight too. We were watching, and you said midway through, you said he's quitting. He's scared. No ifs and buts about it.
Yeah. Listen, if this was, look, people pretend that they don't know what fighting is about. Like when it comes to boxing, all of a sudden it changes. What happens when you got two guys fighting in the streets? It's like two friends that they need to work it out, and one guy starts running. What do the guys around start saying? Stop running like a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Fight. Okay. But in boxing, somehow this is I'll make this fast. And somehow in boxing, this is a scoring criteria. Why? It's fighting. But go ahead.
I wanted to add something about cutting off the ring because people are wrong about this. Of course he cut the ring off on Rigondeaux. What people seem to be implying is that he didn't put him on the ropes and bang him out of there. Okay, that is the penultimate cutting off of the ring, where you trap a guy on the ropes and you fuck him up. No problem. However, when Rigondeaux wanted to run to the right, he would go to his own left and he would make Rigondeaux change direction, and he did that all night. So when you look at any individual instance of him cutting off Guillermo Rigondeaux's exits, he was about 75% effective. Just because Rigondeaux slipped out here and there by ducking below the waist or holding or just legitimately out footworking him, that doesn't mean he didn't get the ring cut off on him 75% of the time. Of course he did. That's why he was running.
Exactly, man. I mean, it's look, there's people in the chat room. I don't think they're hearing us. I'm talking about Cerny Banders. He keeps saying, well, about by the standards of the competition, he won. How did he win if he's running, trying to escape of any semblance of a fight, and not even landing the shots? Look, he missed a lot. See, Cerny Banders, that's why you're not in the Discord anymore, man, because we can't handle your BS. I don't know if you're trolling or not, or if you're just playing dumb.
I mean, how can you champion a dude who landed 44 punches in 10 rounds? That's less than 4 fucking punches a round. I mean, it's disturbing.
You guys, I gotta go do some shit, so I apologize for interrupting. But let me just leave you guys with this thought, and maybe someone can have a logical argument against what it is that I'm saying. We all know what a boxing stance is, okay? I don't need to explain this to anybody, and if I do, you don't need to be here. We all know what that is. If one guy is in his boxing stance 90-95% of the fight, and the other guy isn't even in his boxing stance 90% of the time, how the fuck did he outbox him? Thank you. You guys have a good show. I'm going to listen in the background.
Later, all right, thank you, man. Yeah, that's an excellent point, Precise. That's an excellent point. That's what I was trying to get at in so many words, but he boiled it down to that. Like, if he's not in his boxing stance, he's fucking running. And if he's running, how the fuck's he outboxing the other guy? You can't, if you're moving and somehow you're able to touch the other guy with your fist, that's not a punch. That's just, you're just touching him with your fist because you're floating in the air while you're doing that. I'm telling you, man, this is really eye-opening for me to see this many boxing hipsters, black belt wannabes coming out of the woodwork and essentially say, you know who else said that, fellas? Terrence Crawford. He came out on Twitter and he said Rigondeaux got robbed.
Well, 60% of the fans who voted in the Twitter poll, 60% said it was 60-40 to Rigondeaux winning. So, yeah, you know what I mean? It's baffling to me. It's baffling to me how you would credit someone like that. He made no attempt to engage. He tried to catch him with that left. I just don't think he still has the pop on it that he used to be. But he could still. That's usually the last thing to leave you. the thing is, if he stood and tried to exchange with this kid, he could have might have beat him. Who knows? He's got a good left. He's never shown to be a chinny dude. I think he's a bitter individual. I think he's almost like one of those sadists, bro, who actually gets off on the booze. No, like really, like I mean, fucking ruining all these fucking Americans' lives. You know what I mean? Like it's just. And then imagine that whole card was a disaster. That woman referee. Why the fuck did she call the fight off right away? You give the kid 5 minutes. That cut wasn't bad enough. Was his nose broken? If his nose wasn't broken, call 5 minute timeout. Did you hear it? It was mic'd up, so you hear her going, "Oh my." The minute she saw the blood, she waved the fight off. I'm like, wait a minute. You didn't even look at the cut yet. You don't even know where it is on him, and you're waving the fight off. If it wasn't like. You have the doctor come in, sit him down, feel his nose. Okay, it's not broken. You really don't even need stitches, and it isn't in a place that are going to blind you. So get your shit together and let's get this fight going. But nope, she saw the blood, waves it off. And my girl was the one who pointed that out. She was watching women. She goes, "That's what you get for having a woman judge." Saw the blood and panicked. So exactly what she did.
Your girlfriend, she looks like she needs to go to a re-education camp or something.
Yeah, no, she hates feminism. She doesn't even think women should vote, put it that way.
Oh, come on. Now, wait a minute. All right, now, listen. No, but you know what, Jimmy, there might be something to Rigondeaux, because Rigondeaux has that deadpan look, almost as if he's lifeless in there. Like, there's no life in those eyes. And I think maybe you're onto something. Maybe he does enjoy
The only time he smiled is when he was told about how the fucking crew, the audience was booing him. A big smirk on his face. Just go back and watch the interview. It was disgusting. He has no shame. So it tells you, he obviously, this isn't like it's a one-off, dude. He lost contracts. He lost millions of dollars from HBO. Because they signed him for like a 5-fight deal. He did 2, I think, or 3, and they booted him. I mean, like, we're not going to put up with this. And he never changes. And then a few fights ago, he gets into a banging fight, right, with that dude, and it took him out. And then I think everybody was kind of like, have we seen a new Rigondeaux? Does he realize now he has to give promoters a reason to want to hire him? Because at the end of the day, nobody has to put that fucking clown in their boxing matches on their cards. And I don't think you'll ever get another one again. And if any promoter hires him,
they get what they deserve.
Exactly.
If they even think about GB got in the chances, even Floyd would throw punches back. Yeah, exactly. It's like at least he would catch you with some shots.
Right, because Floyd was still a boxer, right? Like even when he would like fucking take off because the pressure was a little too much. He understood. I'm still in a boxing fight. I got to throw punches. Yeah.
Felipe Porches says Rigondeaux is a masochist. Well, he's definitely has something wrong.
Okay, and again, can I tell you some shit I was told about him? I told you about my old kid I used to rent to, right? His girl was from Miami, Cuban. This is a big family. They're all into boxing. I guess the family has a gym down there. And again, boxing's a small community. People talk. I guess Rigondeaux, according to him, take it for what it is, and he was right about a few other things he told me, but was never into boxing. You got to understand, under Cuba, if you were a great athlete and you were good at baseball, you didn't get a chance to play basketball. They didn't let you play the things. You were like, okay, if whatever was good for the state was good for you. Yeah. And as a young kid, he was very good at boxing. It wasn't like you can quit. The state was like, oh, you don't quit? Okay, your family doesn't get this. And they have ways, under communism, they make you do what you don't want to do. So he became very, very good at it and at the amateur level. And I think it's just always been about the money to that dude. And again, there's no way. Why would he still be hanging around getting booed at like this unless what everything is said about him, that he has borrowed money like a lot of the Cubans do? I mean, even Pacquiao did it. Took $1.3 million off that paradigm with no real chance of fulfilling their needs and spent it.
Jeez Louise. Hey, by the way, Walter Morrison in the chat says, to your point, Jim, he says, Rigo has that amateur system imbued in his system. He was probably whipped if he got hit. Yeah, there was probably some corporal punishment if he even just lost a sparring round or something. Or if he got smacked, he had his head snapped back. They would probably starve him. Say, hey, next sparring session, if you get hit, no more food again. Shout out to Michael Poe for his contribution with Super Chat. Says, I'm back. All right, shout out to Michael Poe, man. Thank you for your contribution. But I want to, listen, with Rigondeaux, like I was saying earlier, it's not the first time he's quote unquote shit the bed. right? Sorry to be crude, but I'm having trouble finding the right word. See, he's done this throughout his career, all the way back when he fought Ricardo Cordoba back in 2010. I mean, I got a question for you guys. How do you think a fight with him and Inoue goes? Do you think he could do the same thing he did last night and just survive 12 rounds?
No.
Wait,
and I don't think Casimero beats him either.
Rigo and Inoue.
No, Inoue stops him either way. Dornier knocks him out too. They just beat him up. They run him out of the ring. They probably like push him out the ring and say, "Yo, just stop this fight, man." No, he's a son. He's a son at this point. He looks like the kind of guy you could slap the shit out of him and he won't do anything. Like seriously, we'll just run.
Did you hear Brian Costa talking about the Lomachenko? The only time he ever lost is when he went up, like, dragged up 2 weight divisions. What are you talking about? It was Rigondeaux who chased Lomachenko for 2 years. Let's never forget that. That was all Loma.
Finished.
I mean,
he's finished. I'm so happy that they gave, like, look, the one judge that gave it, all the judges, in my opinion, I can honestly say, okay, you were feeling a little nice towards Rigo, because to me, Rigo just forfeited every round. But like, the right guy won the fight, thank God, right? Like, one person was like on the Showtime payroll. I think, or he just thinks that maybe that's what Al Heyman wanted to hear. But the other two judges were like, "Yo, I can't give him this fight. This dude's ran, man. I can't do that." You know, he ran every single round, and it got worse. Did you see how worse it was getting? I mean, BDA, we watched it together.
Mm-hmm.
You saw it, right? Like, he kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse.
I mean, hey, listen. You mentioned the point too that he shouldn't even, touch gloves. Casimero shouldn't even touch gloves with him at the end of the fight. That's how disrespect. But see, that's why I always try to be middle of the line and not exaggerate my words when we talk about a fighter's performance. Because usually we throw around the words like robbery or this guy was scared, blah blah blah. Look, Devin Haney, for example. Last night that was scared, and you know what? Let me illustrate that. I got a couple of GIFs here, just to show. Because again, people don't seem to understand the difference between moving and running, and so I think it's as good a time as any to. Hold on a second. This is from last night, by the way. Obviously, Rigondeaux Casimero, and I'm opening up the phone lines too at the same time, just to get some feedback here. But hold on a second. Why is this shit? All right. So I'm going to share the screen here from the YouTube stream, and then we've got. All right. So this is. I'm going to skip ahead to the middle of the fight. I had to rewatch the fight to do this, all right? So give me some credit for standing in front of this screen and watching this disgusting fight. All right.
Run, Rigo, run!
There we go. All right. Now I had to put that in. I sped it up to give you an indication of how much running he did, and also because we can't play more than 5 seconds of the fight. Otherwise, we get in trouble. So look at this. This is sped up, man. All right, now just to illustrate here. All right, let me go to the middle of the fight here. There's a sequence where this motherfucker moves for more than a minute. He doesn't stand still for more minutes. So let's take a look at this clip here. Oh, it's more than that. Jeez Louise. Okay, so he starts off at. You see the Showtime clock there. It's, hold on a second, 2:14, right? 2 minutes and 14 seconds of the 8th round. Now watch how far this guy goes without stopping. 2:14. It's a 2:14. That was almost a minute of him just moving nonstop. 30 long seconds of him. You call that ring generalship, motherfuckers? Look at him. This is not ring generalship. This is a guy that's scared. And he's wishing that when he does stop, 2 minutes into the round and lands one left hand, that's actually going to bail him out. Get the fuck out of here with you. This is boxing. This is skill. This is running. And like Jimmy said, give him credit if you're going to give him credit for anything. Is that he's got that for a 40-year-old, he's got a good leg. Well, actually, he's older than 40 years old, probably like 45. That's actually pretty impressive that he was able to move around the ring that much. But that's what made this so boring. The fact that he's got this great footwork.
Well, they didn't list the thing as a marathon. They weren't saying, come and pay fucking money or give us a subscription to Showtime so you can watch a marathon inside a fucking 20-foot squared ring. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's paying to see that. Nobody wants to see. They want to see conditioned. You know what I mean? Go watch marathons or something. That's just listen. Showtime knew the announcers. They couldn't cover it up. Even it was a pretty good company boy there. Both Custer and Ronaldo threw jabs at him.
Yeah,
that was a joke.
Even Moro Ronaldo at one point goes, well, Myra said, look, I like the movement, but you got to do something with your fists. And Moro Ronaldo at some point said, he started off the run. He says, this reminds me of my DJ days. Well, all I had to do was tell the time and the weather and then back to the, silence. So in other words, he was saying there's nothing for me to say while watching this fight. By the way, the phone lines are
that's huge for him.
Oh, come on. Wait a minute. Fucking,
No, it is for him to say that because he's one thing about Morrow. That's why a lot of people always hire him because he does toe the company line.
Yep, that's true, man. Now, let me play you one last. Well, I got some clips where he's just clinching. Again, if he's so in control and if he's this great ring general, why is he clinching when the other guy gets close? But check this clip out here. This
real
is
quick, BDA. I just want to say something before you show this.
Mm-hmm.
What part that people don't understand, when you start moving back and running, you're the guy that's more nervous. You're the one that's not in control of what you're doing.
Exactly. Perfectly well said, man. But these people just don't want to get it. They don't want to get it. Somebody defend this one. To your point here, recognize. Check this clip out and check out the timestamp here at the beginning. It's 2 minutes, 10 seconds of the 9th round, okay? And I had to speed this up by 500%. Look at this.
I mean, this is pitiful, man.
2 minutes, 10 seconds.
I want to know the person that would give this round to Rigo. I would love him to come on. All right? I promise to be nice and be respectful. Just come on and tell us how he won that fight. Tell us how you judge boxing. And let's have a debate about it. Let's just look. If it's boxing and it's consensus that what we just saw, right? You speed it up like 500%, right? And all I saw was Rigo running. Any normal person would say, "Well, it looks like the Asian guy's winning," right?
Yeah, it looks like the Chinese guy's winning. Yeah,
right, exactly. Okay, they're gonna say, "Look, the black, take the nicest person in the world that doesn't want to be offensive." You like, look, the Negro is just like running around. He's just like running around. So in a fight, I can't give him that round. Come on and show us how he won that round. I would love for somebody just don't talk shit, and sit there with that stupid look on your face like Rigo and say, you guys are crazy. I think he won. Like, come out and actually show us how he won that fight. Explain it to us.
Recognize what's going to happen there is you're going to get the same people that have been talking to for years about De La Hoya Whitaker on how they think it's a robbery because Whitaker cried, and they can't give me 7 rounds that he won in that fight. They just say, "Oh, but he made De La Hoya look bad." That's not how you. That's not part of the judging.
That's not a scoring criteria. Yeah, that's not a scoring criteria.
There's nothing about. You're right. He made him look bad. That's 100% true. And Rigo made JC look pretty ordinary last night. He did.
Not pretty ordinary. You can't punch a target that's running from you.
Exactly. No matter how well you cut off the ring. I mean, you'd have to corner the guy at some point, but Rigondeaux, he's got one thing we do give him credit for is that world-class footwork that he can use like nobody's business when he wants to run.
Well, no, what you guys are not noting that I've heard so far, and what nobody's noting that I did is the fact that every time we got close, he'd grab him by the head and force his head down. Mm-hmm. Now, people can say holding all they want to about it's part of boxing, blah, blah, blah. This is part, that part, all right. It comes down to holding behind the head is illegal in every country, period. It just is.
Exactly, yeah. It's wrestling.
And he was taking him and forcing his head down. That is literally grappling and wrestling. Tying up an arm or something like that to try and survive is not the same thing as grabbing behind the head and forcing it down. That is, that's barely allowed in collegiate wrestling. So, with the intention of like personally forcing the neck down, it's not allowed in professional football. It's not allowed in a lot of sports. And it's definitely not allowed in boxing. So, what he was doing to defend himself wasn't just grabbing, holding, tying up an arm. It was forcing his head down, which again is against. So not only was he avoiding contact, he was cheating.
Exactly. And when he, like you said, when a guy gets close to him, he did that last night too. He'll extend his right arm and grab a guy behind the head and then pull him towards him. Not just pull him down, but pull him towards him. And that's the other thing. When people talk about masterful boxing, why is it then that when Casimero got close, Rigondeaux would clinch? Why wouldn't he counter? Why wouldn't he throw some uppercuts and hooks in there and get his man with some counters? And the other thing is, no jabs either. Where were the jabs?
Because Cubans don't have an inside game. They don't have one. The amateurs, they're in the amateur class and the rules of the point system. When he was coming around, they didn't have an inside game. And so what they do in the pros is, with the exception of Gamboa, who was very explosive, I think Steve Kim said that the other night, he was very explosive when he first came out. The rest of them, even Hurtado, as much as I liked him, were very much, I'm going to try and win 4 rounds and then pick maybe 3 more rounds and win the fight when I want to, but I'm going to stay in that lead and then no one's going to beat me. If they get a knockout, great. If the knockout's there, they usually have a pretty good killer instinct. But for the most part, until the knockout presents itself, I'm going to win the first 4 rounds, and then I'm going to pick 3 more over the next 7 to win. And then, of course, 4 plus 3 is 7. First one to win 7 rounds without knockdowns or point deductions wins a 12-round fight. They've got it mathematically inclined in their head. That's how they're going to do it. So against dangerous opponents like Casimero, that's all Rigo's going to try and do.
So you're saying that you wouldn't have minded to seeing Rigondeaux in the same position Hurtado was against Whitaker, right? On the ropes, getting smacked around until fucking what was the guy's name? Mercanti Jr. Mercanti Jr. just standing there watching. Yeah. All right, but listen, we got to go to phone calls here. The phone lines are open. I'm curious. Let's see what people have to say, man. Okay, so I'm very curious. Let's go to. Hold on a second. 347, you're on the air. 347, what's on your mind?
Yo, sup, BD?
How you doing, man?
You know, Rigondeaux is a bum, bro. Send that clown back to Cuba, bro. He's not doing nothing for America, bro. Riga versus Casimero made Floyd versus Pacquiao look like Ward versus Gotti, bro.
Oh.
You know, Rigondeaux made Bumdradi look inciting, bro. Watching Floyd trying to read is more entertaining, bro.
Oh, he's
bro,
a Asian sensation coming in with the jokes.
That is yo. Rigo running is not boxing. LDBC loves Rigo because he runs away like their dad, bro.
Ah, okay, now wait a minute. See, now you're going too far, man. But keep going. Asian sensation, are you there? Oh, he hung up. I think I scared him off. I was being... when I say, oh, and I react like I'm all indignant, I'm being sarcastic here. Just keep going, man. I don't give a fuck. Let's go to the phone call here. Let's go. And don't forget to hit the like button, fellas. Hit the like. Really helps us out. 214, you're on the air. 214, what's on your mind?
Yeah, it's me. I would like to apologize to Mr. BDA. I thought that you guys were just being mean to Rigo when you guys were calling him boring. But when I watched it, I had paid to get the Showtime app and to get to watch this fight, and I was very disappointed. I thought he was only going to do it for like 2-3 rounds, but when he kept on doing it over and over and over, I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, so this is where everybody was talking about, because I've only seen highlights of Rigo. I've never really watched the fight. And then now I completely understand. I had made a video on my channel saying this was just a complete waste of time. And honestly, I felt Casimero, he should have just threw more punches, try to throw more punches. But he kept on falling for the same trick too. So I thought Casimero was pretty trash as well.
Yeah, listen, Casimero, he deserves to be lambasted a little bit too for his inability to actually finish. Because, like Precise said, he was cutting the ring off, but he just couldn't put that last finishing touch. When you fight a guy like Rigondeaux, and Chief recognize, and Jimmy, you tell me if I'm wrong, you got to set the guy up with feints so that you end up cornering him little by little until you actually finally get him either on the ropes or in the corner.
You throw the feint, you see which way he's going to go, you make a memory of that, like which way does he go to a left feint? So he's going that back thing, you throw a feint. If he constantly keeps going to one direction, you punch to where he's going to step to, not where he is. So you get him to actually walk into a punch. Again, Casamaro's probably never been in a fight like that. It's a hard thing to train for. Probably never expected. He probably never expected to see it.
It's a hard thing to train for. It's not part of your regular repertoire. So I'll acknowledge that. But I'm going to take one other thing. If that style doesn't work, if the feints don't work, then you may do, like, again, Hurtado made Whitaker come to him. When has Whitaker ever been effective being an aggressor?
Mm-hmm.
That fight perfectly showed the fact that, other than the fact that he's 11th round knockout, that Whitaker's not an effective aggressor. He doesn't know how to do it because he's so used to people coming to him to where he gets to dictate the pace and he gets to sidestep and everything else off of your momentum. So what you do is, like what Barrera did to Hamid, even though Barrera was definitely a world's better counterpuncher than Casimero is, but you used your jab, you established and again, it's that foot dominance I've always talked about, the lefty and righty. You back off. There was a scene where they were like posing at each other going, come on. Casimero just should have gotten in a stance, stood right there. The second Rigo came, moved to his left, used the jab almost in a hooking motion to put him back in front of him where he wanted to for his right hand. Now, if that wouldn't have worked against Rigo because he would have moved and done something else, you've still established where we're going to start this fight from. And now Rigo's got to counter and do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he should. If feints didn't work, that's what he should have done. Use the passiveness against him by making him become the aggressor because he's going to walk into punches.
Yeah, but that was never going to happen. Rigo was never going to be the aggressor. He already felt that power in the first round. And like I said, man, he conceded. He forfeited every round by his shenanigans just running around the ring. I think Casimero forced him to do that because he cut off the ring pretty nice. And, he wasn't able to pin him against the ropes. Try to pin somebody against the ropes that his plan is to literally run, and the referee is not going to say anything about it. Try to pin that guy.
Try and pin a guy against the ropes that doesn't want to be in there to begin with.
Exactly.
Correct. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm going to do that. So I'm taking zero away from Casimero. He tried to make the fight. Rigo had different plans. He wanted to run, and basically, the fight should have been DQ'd or stopped.
All right, well, listen.
Terrible. Casimero did what he had to do.
Caller, we have to move on, but anything else you want to say before we move on?
I think Rigondeaux should just retire. Al Heyman is a nice guy. He likes to give these guys second, third, fourth chances, but I think he really blew. He he just messed up bad this time. I don't think even Al Heyman.
Caller, does Heyman a nice guy because he likes to give these guys second chances, or does he like to take has-beens who are semi-retired and get them for the short dollar?
That's one way of putting it, Jimmy. That's for sure. All right, listen, caller. We got to move on, man. But thank you for your call. We'll catch you next, all right, man? Yeah, a lot of people calling in today. They wanna give us their opinion on last night fights. Shout out to Get These Hands. Donated with the super chat. He says, why didn't he attack his body and take away his legs? Well, it's because like Chief and Reckon I said, Get These Hands. And by the way, thank you for your contribution, man. Really appreciate it. But when a guy is intent on running and the other guy plants his feet, as soon as Casimero planted his feet, Rigondeaux was out of there. He did not want to engage. It's very hard. Listen.
Well, I was going to say, he could, and he was also, because he might have been running, but he still got his left hand is still, everybody who's ever fought him says, wow, they're surprised by his power. I mean, he's broken dudes' jaws and shit. He can hit. And you could tell when he did connect with the left hand, it set him back a couple of times. Like, he didn't rush in as much after when he caught him with a shot. And when you make a concerted attack for the body against someone like that, I think, you know what I mean? Like, that's what he would have wanted because you can open yourself up for more of that cross left.
Exactly.
That's the reason why I think he didn't go for the body as much.
Let's go to...
The reason he quits, right? The reason he also quits when he starts realizing that, you are aware of his one-trick pony, which is the left. He's like, oh, shit, I don't have anything other than that. Right, that's the only thing that I have. So that's when you see a guy running, or like in the case of Lomachenko, they quit. Whatever excuse they make, they are telling you, I don't have anything else, and I'm afraid that I'm gonna get destroyed. And me getting destroyed, that image of me getting just my ass taxed, I'd rather just quit. I'd just rather forfeit. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's how he is. He's a coward, bro. Come on, look. He probably had a bad life in Cuba. I'm sure he had a lot to do with that. Look, I don't feel bad for guys that are 50 years old. Hold on, real quick. I don't feel bad for guys that are 50 years old. I understand that life is crazy, and sometimes we make our bed and we got to lay in it. But like, I'm not here to get sympathy. He's trash and he's a coward. That's it. That's the way I see it. I don't have to explain anything else. Coward. He's a trash boxer.
I just want to piggyback off of he may have had a hard life in Cuba. When you're a two-time gold medalist on Castro's team, your life isn't as hard as the rest of Cuba. You're pretty much taken care of by the state. So
that's why, Chief, you're 100% right. The athletes do get taken care of better than anybody.
I'm sure he had a hard life in Cuba, and I'm sure he had a lot to do with that. You know what I mean? It's called choices. He made choices.
Can I just say, recognize, anybody's looking for sympathy from Recognize, he wants me to tell you it's between shit and syphilis in the dictionary.
Oh, wait a minute. Can't talk that way. By the way, somebody in the chat, people are calling him Rigondeaux. I gotta tell you, the creativeness, it's not all that, but it's pretty. It's pretty. I gotta admit, it's kind of comical. I was gonna call him Rigotard, but I say, you know what? Let me ream that. Scale that back a little bit. I don't want to go too
it's actually Rigo. Isn't it in Spanish Rigondeaux? Isn't it like that? Rigondeaux, right?
I don't know, man. No, actually, no.
I don't remember.
We don't say the X in Spanish.
No, I'm not good with Spanish. I know it just a little. Doesn't that mean scared pussy?
No, wait a minute.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just joking. Obviously.
No, I'm kidding.
I'm not one to defend this guy's character. I'm too many things. He's had 400 400 amateur fights, 2 gold medals, titles in 2 weight classes. To call him a coward is a bit harsh due to the fact that he's not a warrior, and he doesn't deserve to be. He doesn't deserve to be admired for what he's produced in the ring. But to call him a coward, knowing that he knows damn well what he's going to be facing when he gets in that ring from all the experience he's got, is a bit drastic to me. I'm not taking away from your opinion, Frank, because I don't like his style at all.
I respect your opinion, but I'm going to totally disagree and say he's a coward. What I saw last night was the cowardice move. I don't care if you get in the ring.
Even though I'm not agreeing with you.
I don't care if you get in the hold on. I don't care if you get in the ring. I don't care if you get in the ring. It's how you conduct yourself. Anybody could go in the ring. If you run, okay, you just keep running. You fought like a coward.
Listen, when I used to be in the industry, there were guys that would talk a big game, like, yeah, I can do it in front of the camera, I can do it, and then they would go in there and it would just be stale, and they couldn't get it up. Now, yeah, it took balls to get in front of the camera, but they couldn't get it up. So that you have to characterize that the way it's supposed to be. Shout out to Michael Poe for his contribution with the super chat. He says, hold on a second, I'm trying to find the super chat. A lot going on here. Everybody that's on the phone lines, by the way, stay there. I'm gonna get to you. Don't go anywhere. Man, why isn't?
BDA, I just wanted to say, my old lady says it's one of her favorite parts of the show when you fucking start with, when I used to be in the industry or when I was in Vietnam.
Well, I'm giving a little.
That
trivia.
kills her, man. That's great.
It's a little trivia, little bits of goodness for everybody. Anyway, I can't read Michael Poe's fucking super chat. By the way, is that Steve Kim?
Guys, can you hear me?
Oh,
Steve.
Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Yeah, I was listening during my workout. I got about a half hour before I got to start writing my article, but you guys are cracking me up with this Rigondeaux stuff. Actually, last night, I had to work the Thompson boxing stream where I saw a very good young prospect by the name of Ruben Ace Torres, and I tried to stay off of social media during the broadcast, but I was spoiled because some of the results came up. And in the Rigondeaux fight, I have to tell you, it's interesting. I thought it was perversely entertaining. I mean, it was so bad, it was kind of good. You ever seen that really bad movie?
Yes.
Like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, that is so bad, it's kind of good.
It becomes a cult favorite. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Space Hunters, Beyond the
it's like I'm watching this and I'm kind of like laughing. I'm like laughing because I'm like, what did you people expect? I'll never forget, guys, when Rigondeaux was in his prime, he beats Nonito Donaire. It wasn't really that much of a surprise to me because Nonito did not have a great camp. I don't think he realized what he was getting into because say what you want, Rigondeaux in his prime was a gifted boxer. And so that's the night where Larry Merchant, I think, had been retired, but he was still watching boxing, and he still does. He calls me the next day after that fight, and he dropped like 5 lines about that fight that he would have dropped if he was on that broadcast, and he said that fight was like expecting fine wine and getting stale grape juice. And that's what you're getting. You're getting stale grape juice. And look, there are some people that enjoy it, that pretend to like it.
Pretend.
You know, but the thing was, last night was so beyond the pale of movement and boxing and all that other stuff. But I thought it was funny the way the crowd was just flat out booing early on, and they kept booing. And even the Showtime announcers had to acknowledge that this is not playing well. I was kind of laughing throughout. I don't really take this stuff seriously. And I just said, you know, sometimes when it's that bad, it's actually kind of good.
First, Steve, that kid's name. What's that kid's name again? You said
Ruben Ace Torres, and in our
that's a great boxing name right there.
Yeah, and he's a tall, lean puncher, and you know he missed weight. And his dad came up to me after the fight, very nice man. He goes, Steve, what do you think of my son? And I think your son's $1 million talent, but I think it's bullshit he didn't make weight. What is that? What are we going to do anything about this? Because I'm not one of these cheerleaders. And I give the father credit. He goes, yeah, no excuse. It's effing bullshit. It's never happening again. That's true parenting. It's good to see that in America. Not enough yet, but
Steve,
anyway, guys, how about Virgil Ortiz though? Now there's a fighter. Now there is fine wine. Now there's a guy that I think that we could just put into our cellar and we can enjoy him and just sip on him for years. Now there's a fighter.
Steve,
fucking right.
Him and Boots Ennis, back when they had their last two fights, each respectively, I was saying Ennis was going to be the one take over. I haven't seen Ennis fight since then. I haven't seen Ortiz's fight the other night because I haven't found good footage of it yet. But I've read nothing but great reviews. So after last night's performance, Ortiz, Ennis, what's your call?
You know, I've been consistent on the 3 knockdown rule in saying that Ennis has a little bit of a higher athletic ceiling.
Yeah,
I stick by that. But if you look at line by line at who they're fighting, Sergey Lipinets is a solid fighter, but he's more of a junior welterweight that may be a little bit past it.
True.
You know, look, Virgil Ortiz has fought better guys. And I think Golden Boy has done a masterful job of inching up his opposition that by the time he fights for a welterweight title, no matter who it's against, he will be a full-fledged seasoned fighter. And there's something very, very reliable about him. He, like I call him FedEx because he always delivers. The only thing I don't like technically about him that he holds that right hand abnormally high on his head. It's not just at his cheek or his chin area where he can shoot off a right hand, but defensively he really likes to have that hand almost above his forehead. And the problem with that is it's a great guard defensively, but you can't shoot off a lot of straight right hands. You're not going to be really quick off the trigger. But his speed and quickness is underrated. I think because he's Mexican-American, a lot of people don't give him credit for his twitchiness, but he's a reflexive fighter. And I think he's got a lot of tools. He works hard. And that's the fight to make. I've already moved on from Crawford Spence. That's not going to happen. Let's hope that Boots and Virgil one day can, actually fight.
Bless you. Bless you.
Thank you.
No, I listen, I agree, man. I've been high on that kid from the get-go, and I think, and there was no doubt about it. And again, you check that box. He was shook a little in the first round, no doubt about it. And let's give that kid Mean Machine credit. You don't see anybody from the PBC or anybody else calling him out. They'll say, they'll denigrate Crawford's win over him. But I'll tell you right now, that kid's a tough out. And Ortiz, to me, checked all the boxes last night. I was so impressed with that. I agree with everything you just said.
Well, first of all, by Fight News rankings, Ortiz is the number one contender for Crawford's belt, not Porter. I don't know when that happened, but when you go to Fight News and you hit rankings and it goes all the way down, the WBO, according to that site, has Ortiz as the number one contender.
What happened was Top Rank a couple of months ago inquired with Paco Varcarcel. Now, I've said the WBO is very tight with Arum. It's not exactly like PBC and WBA, but they're a cozy relationship. And the WBO, which I've labeled We're Bob's organization, said to Paco, hey, why don't we have Crawford? Can we have Ortiz be the mandatory? Can you enforce that? the issue was that Golden Boy was already deep in negotiations with Mean Machine Kavaliauskas. So they said, well, what about number 2 with Porter? That's how that came about. And going to the Porter thing real fast, guys, I don't expect a deal to be struck. I hate to be the wet blanket to everybody. I'm hearing that basically the talks aren't going all that well. It may or may not go to a purse bid because I don't know if anyone's going to actually bid what they want. So I'm not really that encouraged by what I've been told about that particular fight. So I would not really hold my breath for Crawford against Porter. However, when I spoke to Virgil about 3 weeks ago at the gym, he said, Steve, after this fight, should I come out clean and do what I want? Yes, I'm ready for a title shot. He was actually a little bit insulted that there was the insinuation that he ducked Terrence Crawford. So as far as I'm concerned, if the kid wants it, I think we should oblige him. It's time to start making fights.
Right. Agreed.
Well, I mean, hopefully they can get it done. It's just this business of boxing. It just seems very tiresome, especially lately with fights dropping out, being postponed or canceled outright. Last night's, whatever you want to call it, the track meet between Rigondeaux and Casimero. It's a little discouraging right now, but you got to keep your hopes up and hope. Virgil Ortiz is certainly a bright spot in boxing right now. Fellas, would you mind if we take a couple of phone calls here? Because we got
sure.
Yeah, let's see. Hey, Steve, I just got to warn you, sometimes we get a bunch of crazies here, so
gotcha.
Take what they say with a grain of salt. All right, because I want to keep people waiting way too much. 773, you're on the air. 773, what's on your mind?
What's up? So let's get right into it. I was never high on Mean Machine. I saw he got a gift draw against Ray Robinson. I thought he lost that fight. And then he immediately goes into a title fight against Crawford. He drops him. He looks good for a round and a half, couple rounds, and then he continues to fold. He melts. He gashes out really quickly. And then his last fight, before this, Zewski, he wasn't really looking good. He got a come from behind knockout. He didn't look too good in that fight. And then in this Virgil Ortiz fight, he gassed out again. I told you, he's a musclehead with a bad gas tank. And it's just funny to me, some of the reactions. They say Crawford. They're trying to compare Crawford's win to Mean Machine, or Virgil Ortiz win over him. It's just ridiculous.
Why is it ridiculous, Kevin? Why? Why is that ridiculous? Explain two fighters having a fighter in common, a victory in common, and why would it be ridiculous?
Because styles make fights, and that was Mean Machine took his zero. Mean Machine took a zero. Crawford did. But anyways, here's my point. You guys, the biasness I heard talk about Crawford. They're saying Crawford he's ducking him. He's ducking whatever his name is, Ortiz. Ortiz beat a gassed up little musclehead with a poor gas tank, and they want to say Lipinez, that Ennis fight. Ennis has to beat anybody. They want to hype up this win over Ortiz, like Mean Machine, like he's some world class opponent. I told you guys, he's a juiced up musclehead with a poor gas tank. I'd rather have someone go in there and put what's his name? Lipinez has heart. He has a gas tank. I'd rather fight Mean Machine, a guy who quits and folds, than someone like Lipinez who goes out there and puts his heart all into it, swinging, high octane, a lot of action. But everyone wants to downgrade that Ennis win over Lipinez, but they want to hype up
because he's 140 pounder, dude. He's not even
all right, well, listen.
Because he's not a legitimate welterweight, though.
He's folds, man. This dude's got no heart. He's got no heart, and he's got no gas tank.
All right,
that's like the worst combination in boxing. I'd rather have pillow fist.
Kevin.
I'd rather have pillow fist like Paulie Maldonado. I'd rather have a glass chin like Amir Khan than have a pillow gas tank.
Mute his ass. He's not going to listen.
Wait, it's Kevin.
Kevin.
Steve Kim wants to
I will give you an invite. I happen to know Igis Kavaliauskas. Tell me where you are. I could set up a meeting and everything you just said. I would love to see you say that to him. I could arrange the meeting. I mean, you're a tough guy, obviously.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I mean, you're
but
awfully
everyone
brave.
here,
But let me make this point.
They'll like to bash Crawford, though. They'll come on here and they'll bash Crawford and say,
Nobody
oh,
has bashed
him
Crawford.
and this and that.
Nobody has bashed Crawford.
So relax with that, Steve. Relax with that, Steve.
All right, well,
bash
listen.
fighters all the time, just like they want to
Hey,
bash
guys.
Ennis and say, oh, he beat nobody.
All right,
He
well, listen,
nobody.
Kevin,
He's going
we gotta.
over, lipping at
Never try to earn
nobody.
caller of the year.
Steve has been one of the bigger Crawford supporters around, so obviously you clearly don't.
Yeah, and I don't even get
follow it,
along
brother.
with Crawford. I don't even get along personally with Crawford, but nobody has stood up for him more than I have in terms of how the politics of the game have worked against him. Now, here's the problem when you start going A, B, C, and D happen and you want to start making comparisons. Nobody's been higher on Jaron Ennis than I have. I'm probably the first guy that brought him up 4 years ago. But if you want to get into that game of comparative performances and downgrading every performance, I like Sergey Lipinets. But you know what? In his fight before, he faded badly and may have not beat Custio Clayton. We could go 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon on this. It's ridiculous.
That's a good point.
But Kevin, please let me know. I could set up the meeting with Mean Machine, and you could say everything you did just right to him. Please.
You know what, though? I think
He'll agree. I'm sure he'll agree that his gas tank is poor. He's got a really bad gas tank, and he's had some really bad performances where he faded.
I know one thing. I think you're so gutless you wouldn't show up, Kevin.
Oh, come on,
That's
Steve.
what I think.
Steve, I think he should lose some muscle because here's my final point. These dudes, you know what else I was listening to another stream that's saying, if you're just a cuck. You're a cuck for black fighters. That's what they'll say. And these dudes want to come out here and say, and they're dick ride Latino fighters. They'll say, oh, if you're a cuck for black fighters, but you can cuck for Latino fighters. Oh, Virgil Ortiz, Canelo Alvarez, Jose Ramirez. It's just funny, these dudes. 200 years ago, white people would be on horseback with bolt-action rifles shooting people that look like
okay, all right, Kevin, we gotta go, man. We gotta go. Kevin, we gotta move on.
Get out of here with that
Calm down, man.
All right, Kevin, listen. I gotta tell you, Kevin. I gotta tell you, I disagree with a lot of what you said, but you brought the energy. You did not disappoint.
Ortiz is because they think he can beat Crawford. They think he can defeat a black fighter.
All right.
But soon as Josh Taylor gets in there, they're going to be rooting for Josh Taylor.
Fantastic.
Andrew Ruiz.
All right, we get the point, Kevin. Thank you for your call,
Kevin, you're just an irony, bro. That's all you are.
I think he brought some good points.
Not for nothing, but hasn't Kevin been one of the most? I mean, isn't he the person people have called in to say, "Jesus, that dude's racist"? It's just kind of funny how he uses shit against, like, all of a sudden. I don't know. I don't want to even get into that road, but whatever.
Anyway, listen.
Yeah, what I found out about Kevin?
We got a lot.
Kevin thinks
he's still going.
His girlfriend is Puerto Rican.
He's still
he's changed his mind.
Well, listen, he's still talking to himself. But Kevin, we got to move on because we got a lot going on. We got other people waiting on the phone line. So shout out to you, Kevin. You always bring the energy, man. Take it easy, man. All right, that was Kevin from Chicago. I told you, you gotta be careful with some of these calls. All right, let's see who else is on the line here. 732, you're on the air. 732, what's on your mind?
Hello?
Yeah, 732, you're on the line. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, guys? Yeah, I mean, just talking on the Casimero fight last night. I can't say, I don't feel like people should really be surprised. I mean, we know who Rigo is. He's a defensive sharpshooter. He doesn't really throw too much. I feel like in that one fight he had where he was throwing a bunch of punches, he kind of just dupes the people to kind of get us interested into his next fight, make us think that he's going to throw a lot of punches. But when it came down to it, when he got that fight that he actually wanted, he was going to do what he always does and do what he's always been. He's a defensive sharpshooter. He doesn't throw too many punches. He's going to use his footwork. But I feel like there's too much being thrown on Rigo and not enough on Casimero, because if you go on YouTube and look at all Casimero's training videos up to this fight, he's with Jorge Capetillo on the pads doing all these things. He's throwing 12-punch combinations, 8-punch combination, looking like he's ready to go into the ring and give a dog fight, but as soon as he gets into the ring and Rigo starts letting go those shotgun left hands, he gets scared to throw. And when he backs Rigo into those corners, all he's doing is throwing that same lead hook. Throwing that same lead hook every time, and all Rigo had to do was slip under it, and then he stroll around the ring. They meet in the middle of the ring and do it all over again for 12 rounds. So you could say Rigo was doing this and that, but Casimero should have done better. All that training, all those videos, 12 punch combinations, training, running, and he couldn't throw more. What do you think about that?
I mean, the guy was running from him. What did you want him to do? And what you call being scared, I call that being smart. You just don't.
Hold on, real quick. Footwork.
You don't just recklessly. You just don't recklessly run into a guy's most powerful weapon. I can guarantee you that's a recipe to get yourself knocked out. What you do is you're cautious and you continue your fight.
Worked on flipping the left hand and then firing after that. But he's not that good.
What left hand? It came once in a while, once in a blue. Right, like 10 seconds of the whole fight, he threw that left.
Well, listen,
so it barely happened.
And it made him second guess throwing anything else. As soon as he let that left hand go.
Caller, I'll say this. You're preaching to the choir. Casimero, no one's going to confuse him with Canelo Alvarez in there or Naoya Inoue. But like, I recognize does have a point. When this guy's moving nonstop, it's very, very hard to just even hit him to the body. Because by the time Casimero is getting set, Rigondeaux's already running out to the other side of the ring. So I understand what you're saying. It's true. Listen, we did grill Casimero.
Running is an exaggeration. He was.
Please don't make me play the clips again.
He was on his toes a lot, but he was strolling around, and Casimero was just following him.
He ran,
following him all around the ring.
When you're moving,
a couple of times, he turned his back even to duck out of there. He should have been points. He should have been warned for turning his back. A couple of times, he literally turned his back and jogged away. That should be instantly stopped. Do that again. I'm going to take a point. When you show a fighter, this referees will call a fight. You show your opponent your backside.
I'll say this, man. Caller, because we do have to move on to other calls. But I agree with what you said. Casimero deserves to be lambasted too, as well, for his lack of fundamentals. But that being said, one thing we can't say is that Rigondeaux schooled Casimero. At best, for either guy, nobody got schooled.
No, I agree with that. Right. He didn't school him.
All right, but I get your
point.
The
right man won last night.
Well, I mean, listen, it's both guys have to brush up on their skills. But Rigondeaux, he's 40 years old, so I think he's out the way. But listen, caller, I understand your point. Thank you for your call. We do have to move on. We got a lot going on here, so thank you for your call. We'll catch you on the next one. Thank you, man. Take it easy.
Hey, BDA, just keep in mind, 92 combined punches landed in a 10-round fight.
I mean, that's
criminal.
12 round, yep.
Jimmy.
12 round, that's right. Holy shit.
Guys, I want to make this point. You don't have to be as fast as Usain Bolt to be considered at running in boxing. I mean, it was just constant movement. That's the problem. It's not about the speed of the movement. It's the consistency of it. And look, Rigo's Rigo, and I think the caller makes a good point, though. Casimero, he's a raw, rugged guy. He's got a lot of technical deficiencies, but he's heavy-handed. Certain styles are going to make him look really good. But certain styles are also going to really expose him. And that got accentuated a little bit last night. I kind of agree. It took two not to tango last night.
Yeah, the caller's right about that. I mean, it's Casimero's fault too. But on the other hand, too, one thing I said at the beginning of this broadcast is that if you want to craft it this way, you want to frame it this way, you could say Casimero forced Rigondeaux to fight that way. And the same people that are giving Rigondeaux credit for his sublime footwork should also give Casimero credit for making him fight that way. You know, I mean,
I agree with you. Somewhere along the way, we started giving certain boxers credit for when nothing happens in a fight. I never understood that. This is still professional boxing. And Jimmy, you're right. I remember Arthur Mercanti Sr., he would literally tell fighters, he'd call timeout in the middle of a fight, hey guys, get going, mix it up. Now, I never agreed with that because I didn't think that was his job. But right around the 5th, 6th round, I guarantee a lot of people were probably wishing Mercanti Sr. was the referee last night.
yeah, he would actually tell people too to shut up if they were talking to each other.
Hey, Steve Kim, once upon a time, the referee would stop the fight if you, especially one fighter, is just not interested in letting his hands go. He would be like, "Look, I'm going to stop this fight, and I'm going to award the fight to the winner." They didn't have TKO back then, but if you go back and check out a lot of people's resume, you'll see that the fight was stopped. It was scheduled for 15, right? Let's say. And around the 11th or 12th round, the referee stopped it. And you could see decision win. It's because the ref stopped it, and he said the fighter A won because fighter B was not interested in fighting.
No, you're right. And there's an interesting story Larry Merchant told me. This is years ago, and it was about the legendary matchmaker for Madison Square Garden, Teddy Brenner. And this is when the Garden was the biggest, most powerful outfit in boxing, but they didn't sign fighters. They just had to make fights. They had to sell tickets. So entertainment value mattered. And Teddy Brenner had some pressure to put on this fighter who had been an Olympian, was undefeated, didn't really make a lot of great fights, though. But there was pressure for Teddy to give this kid a shot at the Garden. So Larry was there, and he says, "Steve, I'll never forget, after 5 rounds, not a single punch had been landed by either guy. It was really a dull fight." And he said that Teddy Brenner got up from his seat, went all the way across to the other side of the ring, and when the bell sounded for that end of the round, he actually climbed up with the trainer. He got right in the fighter's face and said, "Kid, I just want to let you know, if you don't start fighting, you're not getting paid."
Oh.
And I don't know what happened in the fight. And Larry said we never saw that kid again at the Garden.
That's how it should be,
Got
man.
fired.
That's how it should be. Yeah, light a fire under some of these guys' asses. By the way, shout out to Ring IQ Boxing Talk for his contribution to the Super Chat. Shout out to Ring IQ. He says he was running straight up. Yeah, that's what he was. I was trying to play the clip again here, but everything froze. But yeah, he was running, man. Straight up. Shout out to Ring IQ for his contribution. Check out Ring IQ's boxing channel if you haven't checked it out already. Hardest working man in YouTube. As far as I know. Maybe there's somebody else, but if there is, I don't know.
Yeah, he puts out a lot of content, man. Good stuff.
2-3 videos a day, man. That's impressive. Absolutely impressive. Let's continue real quick with the phone calls because I think I heard them crash. Let's see if they can hear us. If not, we'll just move on. 818, can you hear us? 818, you're on the air.
It's California.
Sorry about that. Yeah, the phone lines are kaput for the moment. But yeah, I mean, look, listen, this whole thing about he didn't run. It was straight up running. Let's call it what it is. When you're moving nonstop and you can't even have a chance to punch, that's running. And that's why I wanted to show that clip or those clips of Lomachenko early on against Lopez. He would move, but then as soon as Lopez missed, he would step right back in front of him. So that wasn't running. But that's what we hear a lot of.
BDA, can I interject one thing too? I just want to say, man, I'm really happy for Ali's grandson that he didn't make it about his grandfather. He didn't make it super cringeworthy. Holy fucking shit! I wanted to say that was come out wearing his grandfather's shorts. They all have Muhammad Ali T-shirts on.
Oh.
I mean, Flav jumping in the ring. That was. Oh, my teeth were hurting. It was so fucking. It was talk about cringe. Oh my god! I just wanted to say.
You know what was crazy? I didn't realize that Muhammad Ali had a Puerto Rican grandson. That's amazing.
I mean, I think honestly, I think he has like 12 kids. I mean, he really does. He has a brood with a few different women. So, but it's weird. They said those were originally Muhammad Ali's shorts that he wore. I thought somebody said that he wore the night against Liston. How did the fucking pair of heavyweight trunks look like Daisy Dukes on a middleweight? I don't know.
Jimmy, let me ask you something. Was that his one of his daughter's kids? Or
yes.
Like a son?
Yes, his youngest daughter's son, married to a Marine. Wow. Yeah.
Well, what do you guys think about that, though? I know it's cringe a little bit to be playing off of the Ali's name, but isn't that what you're supposed to do if you have somebody in the family that came before
as
you?
Bob Aaron's point, absolutely. I can understand Bob Aaron. Listen, it was cool the fact that Aaron was Ali's first promoter, then his grandson. Yes, I understand that. Yes, I understand mentioning it, but to come out and make it like it just they took it too far, and then it just. Ugh. Because now, you know how human nature is. Everybody's going to want to see us to get smoked now. He just didn't do himself any favors. That's my opinion.
Jimmy,
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Kim. Go ahead.
Jimmy, I'm with you guys real quickly. I think this is the next version of Top Ranks. Butterbean, Mia St. John, Mike Lee. They always have a novelty every couple of years, and this seems to be, the kid didn't look all that bad. He has a decent right hand. The problem is, if he's actually going to make a serious career out of it, okay, I get it. It's the pro debut. You put him on the ESPN broadcast. But a kid like that is still very green, he needs to fight a lot, and he needs to fight away from the cameras in the dark so we can actually develop, no pressure.
Thank you.
But is this just going to be propped up every single time ESPN has a show? I'm with you, Jimmy. That's going to get real old, real fast.
Right. I mean, your first fight, usually you're there with only family and friends in the crowd. You're on, you know what I mean? Like way before the cameras are turned on, you do your business, you come back. To have like the family in the ring after, and they're lighting off candles and Roman fucking, like, all right, stop. It got a little much. That's all.
Well,
it is what it is.
Steve, to your point about staying out of the limelight while you're developing, that's what they did with Andre Ward, right? Like there was a time where we wouldn't really see him all that much, and then all of a sudden he came out and whoops, Andre Ward.
Well,
yeah.
Ward's pro debut was on HBO, and he was a gold medalist, so it was solid. Fought a guy by the name of Sam Calderon, I believe was his name, was 10-0, limited, but he got the win. And then his next couple of fights for a while were not televised, and it was very lucky because I remember one of the fights he got buzzed by Kenny Cost, which was on a Fox show, and you're like, wow, maybe he can't take a punch. And then a few fights later in Portland on a non-televised show or portion of the undercard before HBO went on the air, he got knocked down by Darnell Boone. So he went through some growing pains, but it wasn't in front of the whole world, and eventually Andre Ward had a Hall of Fame career. I'm kind of with Jimmy that in essence, look, I get it. You're going to do it one time. It's a story. But those slots should be reserved for the likes of really bright, legitimate prospects like a Xander Zayas, for instance.
Yep.
A guy like that. Or another kid that looked really good, guys, on the top-ranked undercard that I was sky high on coming out of the Olympics, but his pro career was just derailed by a lot of issues. Carlos Balderas, under the direction of Buddy McGirt, I think can still salvage himself and have an excellent pro career. He has a lot of tools. People actually thought he was our best Olympian coming out of that 2016 class. So you're right. I don't want to see Nico Ali Walsh on ESPN for at least a year. Put him on the ESPN Plus. Put him on club shows. If you're going to do this seriously, give the kid a shot. But I'm with Jimmy. I don't need to see him on every single ESPN card.
Hey, Steve, you mentioned Xander Zayas. What do you think about that kid? I don't know. I'm impressed by him. I've only saw like 2 fights of his, to be honest. But I think for his age, being 18, I don't know if he's going to stay as a welterweight at 18. He's already a welterweight. He probably could get that. But where do you see that kid going?
He's going to be a blue chip stock, and I've been wrong before. But I would bet a lot of Bitcoin on this kid. I actually did one of the first feature stories on him 2 years ago as he signed as the youngest member of Top Rank. Got a great head on his shoulders. He's very mature. And you're right. He by the time he wins a title, he may actually be at middleweight. And I could see him growing all the way into super middleweight and light heavyweight. He's still only 19, loves boxing. He gets great work at the gym in South Florida. Been in there with a lot of good pros like Danny Jacobs already. And I think he is the type of kid you look at and he's got the it factor. And I remember talking to Bob Arum for the story, and this was 2 years ago, and he basically said, I want to make this clear. We have no expectations in terms of time. We're not going to try to rush this, and we're not going to even fit him into a weight class because we realize by age 21, he could be 3 divisions from where he is now. Yep. So I think he's in good hands. His manager's a good boxing guy, Peter Kahn. I know him very well, and he's made it clear we're not going to rush it. So is he at that level yet of a Boots Ennis or a Virgil Ortiz or even a Brandon Lee? No, because the experience is not there. But in terms of his ceiling as a fighter, I think it's sky high.
Real quick, Steve, somebody that I know from South Florida who knows Zayas and Berlinga said, this is what he said to me. He said, when that kid is 21, he'll easily beat Berlinga.
Oh,
that's his feeling of it. He's like he'll easily beat a guy like that.
Yeah, look, the one thing that worries me about Berlanga, there's a lot of stuff that has nothing to do with boxing that he talks about. All the social media. I've talked to a few trainers that are a little bit concerned about Berlanga's focus. And it seems to be a lot about, getting FaceTime by Fat Joe and all that other stuff. And
he's into that lifestyle, that
I'm like,
I'm the man type of lifestyle.
That's one of the things I really like about Virgil Ortiz and why I call him low maintenance. It's all boxing. There's not a lot of riffraff. There's not a lot of extracurriculars. And with Berlanga, I just and I like Edgar. I've done some, pretty major stories on him. I followed him, and that last fight against Damon Nicholson is exactly what he needed. It was a dose of reality. He had to go some rounds. He was pushed a little bit. But I know that his management expects him to get paid very well, but at the same time, they want to be very soft in their matchmaking. It's going to be interesting now to see how Top Rank and his management are able to come to a middle ground, because one side, the management, wants a lot of money, but they also want to be match soft. Well, Top Rank is thinking, well, wait a minute. If you want a lot of money, you got to face somebody. So I would monitor that situation moving forward.
Right.
Yeah, you got to keep an eye on this fella, especially all that.
You hit it right on the head, man. I follow the kid on Instagram, and I'm like, man, I think he's losing focus. I think he's losing focus. Yep.
Hey, by the way, shout out to Michael Pulver's contribution with the super chat. Says Rigo was about to cry one of those days, and Ring IQ morning talks are great. Absolutely, Michael Poe. Shout out to your contribution. Really appreciate it, man. Steve, you mentioned that these prospects that should be kept under wraps a little bit. Could we make an exception for exceptional amateur fighters? These guys that are already in their 30s and they got a gold medal and 400 amateur fights.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, look, again, I'm talking of there are two different sets of prospects. I mean, the guys that come in from Kazakhstan, Russia, Ukraine, that have been through at least one Olympic Games, if not two, if they're already 27, 28, you don't really have a lot of time because there's a lot of mileage on there. And, Joel Diaz told me, after Beck the Bully got knocked out by Rosado, I said to Joel, do you think he was rushed? Are you second guessing any of this with the management? And he said, no, because these guys usually have 250 to 300 amateur fights. They're not going to be the type of guys that you can want to even give a lot of 4 and 6 round fights to. You got to get going. They want to get going. They're here for a certain job, and they want to be rushed. And physically, they're more mature. Now, when you're talking about kids like a Brandon Lee, Ryan Garcia, Boots Ennis, Devin Haney, those guys all began their careers, I believe, at 17 or 18. So there's very few Wilfredo Benitez's out there that are ready to be world-class fighters at that age. You have to nurture them, and you're going to handle them a little bit different than you would a Gennady Golovkin, who actually turned pro at 27. I believe Lomachenko was right around that same age. Their primes are going to be a little bit shorter, but they're going to get to them a little bit faster. So it's not one size fits all with that.
And to what you said about HBO putting water on, that was their thing. I think they started it right pretty much as the network popped on the scene in the mid to late 70s after the 76 Olympics. That was kind of the thing. Remember, they would give everybody who signed with promoters they used, usually their first pro debut on HBO. That was kind of a thing they said, almost a standard, where they would, they would give them all a one-time shot to see what they were, and then they would have to go develop and come back.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy, if you remember in 1984, that great Olympic team that we had, Taylor, Whitaker, Terrell Biggs, Evander Holyfield,
best ever,
Virgil Hill, they all made their pro debut on ABC prime time. From the Madison Square Garden. It was on ABC, and it's funny. It's actually historic because it actually went against the debut of the Cosby Show. And there are stories saying that it was a disappointing night because the Cosby Show just killed it in the ratings. But I still think they had like 8 million viewers on that particular night. So it shows you how much things have changed since 1984. But you're right. After that pro debut, those guys, the majority of which were signed by Main Events, they dispersed, and you didn't really see their second, third, fourth, and fifth, and sixth fights. And so
that 84 class made them, right? Didn't 84 class kind of put Main Events on that? That was their coup, right? That was Main Events. They grabbed all those guys, and that's what put them on the map.
Yes, that's what kind of solidified them as a company that was going to be reckoned with for the next 25 years. They certainly had a great run with them. But it is different now. One thing I don't like about this whole ESPN Top Rank deal is that they've lost the ability to develop kids off the big shows. I mean, I really enjoy Telefutura Solo Boxeo because, and they do this a little bit with the shows on Telemundo. Like, if you look at Teofimo Lopez, his second, third, and fourth fight were actually off of non-top ranked shows on Telemundo, those shows from Kissimmee, Florida. And that's where he really showed a lot of ability, where you say, wow, this kid's going to go places.
Why can't they do like a Tuesday night fight, Steve? Is it just on money allocation? They don't want to put the money into it, or?
Yeah, I've asked people at Top Rank, have you guys thought about doing a developmental series where you could take a Jaron Anderson, perhaps their best heavyweight prospect, and do a smaller show in Toledo and have him be the main focus and let him build a fan base instead of having Jaron Anderson fight at 6:30 on ESPN Plus in front of 15 people? They just don't seem to want to do it. Say what you want about Showtime. I give them credit for keeping Showbox alive.
Yeah,
I think it's a very important series. And they do a good job with it. But the one thing that was really great about Telefutura is that, especially for the Mexican fighters, they could build pretty decent fan bases in these relatively soft fights. They'd go to El Paso. They'd go to Arizona a lot. Once in a while, they'd go to LA, although there was a traffic situation if it was on a Friday. But too many times, I see a lot of good prospects on these top-ranked shows fighting on ESPN 2,000 miles away from home at 4:30 in the afternoon. I don't really know if you could build a guy like that.
Right.
Well, that's a thing.
Oh, hey,
yeah.
I was going to say, real quick, BDA, did you guys catch at the end of the Rigondeaux fight? I was going to say Sean Givens getting into a Jim Gray. Is that what he's saying in Filipino? And Sean got all mad. He's rolling his shoulders. I got it. And I'm like, okay, Sean, you got a facial twitch or a good connect? What's going on here?
Look, that kind of reminded me of when Gladys Rosa was the interpreter for Don King and Julio Cesar Chavez. And there came a time, especially during like the controversial fights with Pernell Whitaker, where Gladys was just start going freestyle. And it was funny because you kind of knew that Julio probably didn't say all that, but I think that's what she thought he was going to say. But, you know, Sean had a funny line. He actually said, that guy's purse should be withheld. That was a pretty funny line.
Hey, that was a valid point he made. It was a valid suggestion. But yeah, man, I hate these guys, these managers that stand around and like they ask a Mexican guy like, "Who do you want to fight next? Anybody, you bring him." And then the guy goes, "Yeah, bring him. Anybody. We're not scared of anybody. We're here. We send out the contracts." Like, well, wait a minute, that's not what he said. You're adding shit. There is like, come on, I hate those guys, man. They add their own little spin, and that's why you need a guy. You need a ghoul like Jim Gray to keep these guys straight. Say what you want about Jim Gray, but he calls it the way he sees it, man. He's not scared of getting into it with people. So shout out to Jim Gray for that. But you know, when we're talking about the prospects, people forget matchmaking is an art. You know, people can say what they want about Top Rank, but the amount of talent that they've developed, look at, Cotto, De La Hoya, Mayweather, the track was perfect. They had a couple of tough fights here and there. They fought veterans, punchers, and everything ended up working out in the end.
No, it truly is an art form. And one of the things that I saw, because I had to go back and watch the ESPN portion or the ESPN Plus portion of the show, is during the Carlos Balderas fight. And by the way, Balderas looked really good last night. His first fight with Buddy McGirt. I guess he told Tim Bradley and Bernardo Osuna beforehand, I should have been with Top Rank from the beginning. That is their strength. Top Rank, and I've been told this by many managers, even those who don't work with Top Rank and have had their issues with them. And we all know that fighters at a certain time, they feel as though they outgrow Top Rank. They have money issues. We know the list. But they will tell you that in terms of developing and nurturing a fighter and bringing them about correctly with the right fights at the right time, they are the best. There's no doubt about it. And, you know, the track record speaks for itself. And I just wonder now, though, if you're only going to do ESPN shows on site at those venues like last night and no other shows, I'm interested to see in 2-3 years if this system can keep rolling out that assembly line of future world champions like they have been for the past 35, 40 years.
Well, that's the thing, though, because right now, was it you and Doug Fisher, or was it just Doug Fisher that tuned in or zoned in on Edwin Valero back in the day?
Well, we both know Edwin very early. The guy that brought him here to the U.S. is a good friend of ours, Joe Hernandez, who certainly taught me a lot about the game. But it's really Doug that focused in on him a lot. Went to the gym to see him and covered a lot of his early fights. I went to a couple of his early fights. I wasn't quite as close with Edwin Valero as Doug was. Doug really, I think, created, I don't want to say the legend of Edwin Valero, but he certainly was there probably more often than I was. But Edwin Valero was one of the great natural talents that never was. And we all know the story. You know, I'll never forget one time. I walk into the Wild Card gym to work out on a Saturday, and it was the late, great Maca Foley who was working the front desk. We had worked, he was kind of my trainer, and he said, Steve, I got to tell you, I go, do you know about this kid named Valerio? And I go, Valero? I go, yeah, Edwin Valero. He goes, my God. I go, why? He goes, I took Juan Lascano to spar with them a couple days ago. And this is when Lascano was on about a 16-fight winning streak, was WBC #1 contender, ended up fighting Jose Luis Castillo right around that time, fight or two after. And I said, what happened? He goes, Steve, I'm not going to lie to you. He goes, this Valero kid really handled Lascano easy. I go, really? He goes, Steve, he kind of like really dominated him. And I said, really? And Edwin Valero at that time was 3-0. So yeah, this guy was an advanced prospect.
That's insane. Yeah, that guy is Doug Fisher aware that he created a myth that he's right up there?
Oh
with
yeah, he
Ronald
does.
Howard? Yeah, because
That's
he's
one
right
of his
up.
proudest achievements. He calls him his son.
I mean, he's right up there with Ron L. Hubbard in myth making. I mean, people still like if you watch the YouTube boxing community, the Spanish YouTube boxing community, there's tons of videos about Valero, about what could have been. I mean, it's almost Salvador Sanchez like with the what could have beens. Wasn't he schooling De La Hoya, inspiring too before De La Hoya Pacquiao?
Yeah, I can tell you this story. So last story, I got to get going here, guys, but this is a funny story. So I took a lot of heat because I was one of the few people that really picked Manny Pacquiao over De La Hoya. I thought actually that they had made a big mistake. I remember being on record. There's a Ring Magazine prediction panel where I'm one of 2 or 3 people out of 25 that picked Pacquiao, because if you go back to the fight with Oscar De La Hoya against Steve Forbes, if you were there ringside, it was noticeable how slow De La Hoya had gotten. And I actually thought Forbes really marked him up and was beating him to the punch. So, and at that point, they were supposed to do the Mayweather rematch. Mayweather made the decision to opt out of the rematch clause and quote unquote retire. So then they moved on to Larry Merchant to Manny Pacquiao at the recommendation of Larry Merchant. Larry actually made that fight. That was his idea. I don't know if you guys know that or not. So I said to myself, whoever faces Oscar next is going to beat him. I just had that feeling. Like when Sergio Martinez fought Martin Murray, you got the feeling like this is over. So anyway, one of the people that was kind of involved with Valero in terms of driving him around to the gym, he had known Joe Hernandez, is a guy that I knew very well named Ray Alcorta, a local promoter out here in Maywood, California. So the day before the fight, De La Hoya Pacquiao, I'm at dinner with Ray and Edwin. We're at a table at the Studio Cafe at the MGM Grand. And Ray just thought that I was picking Manny Pacquiao because of some sort of Asian bias. And so he looks over and goes, Steve, are you seriously picking Manny? Come on, Steve. You're off the record. Now just tell me, are you just picking him because you have to, because you know Freddie, you go to Y? I go, no, I really think he's going to outquick him. So Edwin didn't know any English. So Ray and him start going back and forth. And Ray asked him in Spanish, hey, what do you think? Like how much of a shot do you give Manny? And I don't know what he said, but Ray's facial expression just changed in like 30 seconds because Valero said, oh, I agree with Steve. This fight's going to be an absolute mismatch for Manny.
Ooh.
And Ray goes, what? And he goes, why? Valero said, well, I was in camp for about 2 weeks before that MFer threw me out. I have a very heavy left hand. It's harder than Manny Pacquiao's, but Manny's a lot faster. And he goes, if I can't miss with mine, Manny's going to hit him 1,000,000 times. And he said, and he had a real hard on for Oscar because he said those MFers they gave Victor Ortiz credit for blackening his eye on HBO. I did that. He goes, that's why they threw me out of camp, those assholes. I was like, wow. And so Edwin Valero, I don't know how much money he had at that point. He bet like $10,000 that weekend on Pacquiao.
Jeez Louise.
He said it'd be an absolute easy fight. He said this is a no-brainer. And Ray was about to faint. So, I was like, wow, really? He said, yeah. He goes, Oscar looks like an old man in the gym.
Yeesh. Yeah, that's you know what? Knowing what happened with Edwin Valero, I would have been, if I would have known, obviously, I would have been a little hesitant about kicking him out of the gym, or how I would have kicked him out would have been more important. Treat him with kids' gloves, because he certainly seems to have been wearing OJ gloves in that sordid night. Listen, Steve, always enjoy your insights. I know you got to go, but man, really appreciate you dropping by. And
thanks, Steve.
Absolutely, anytime, guys. You have a great, continue to listen. I got some stuff to do.
All right, take it easy, Steve.
Have a good one, Steve. Thanks, buddy.
You too. Thanks.
That's Steve Kim. You can check him out on snack.com. Well, first of all, his Twitter's at SteveKim323, and you can also check him out on K9's Kim's Corner over at snack.com. All you see there, putting it on the screen there, or you got to write at snack.com and you go to K9's Corner. It's right there prominently.
It's those nuggets, those historical nuggets he knows by being on the inside. Like we find out things that you're not going to hear or read anywhere. That's what I'm always fascinated with, because he's got an encyclopedic memory.
Well, that's why I want to ask him. I asked him before about Hopkins Trinia, but I want to seeing as how it's going to be the 20th anniversary coming up this September. I want to hear more about that, because that was an epic. I don't know what it is about that fight. Maybe it's because of that tragedy, and then the fact that it was for the Sugar Ray Robinson Trophy and it was for all the marbles at middleweight. But that was quite an epic night, man. It's coming up, man. The anniversary, less than a month from now. What else, man? Oh yeah, we got a couple of phone calls here as well. Let's see who's on the line. I don't know if they're working though, because they sort of fell apart. By the way, Kevin from Chicago is still out there roaming the chat, man. He's on the warpath. 818, you're on the air. 818, can you hear us?
Yeah. I can hear you.
All right, fantastic. 818, what's on your mind, man?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah, man. I can't believe I was about to go see Casimero and Rungo and Carson. That was terrible. Since the second round to the 12th, the fans were booing. I don't know if people have some type of agenda trying to say Rigo won, but he didn't win that fight. I can't give somebody a fight for being on the back foot and throwing one or two punches the whole fight. It was bad. It was sad too. That people were trying to justify that man should get a belt, a world championship belt, for not doing anything for almost 32 minutes. I just don't understand people's logic behind it. It was weird.
Well, you made a good decision of not going. That was probably the best decision, one of the better decisions you've made.
You know what, Jimmy? He probably had a gut feeling. Go ahead, caller. Sorry.
Yeah, I had just looked at the schedule. I was like, oh, Ortiz is fighting. You know what? Maybe I'll just stay home, watch all three cards. A little bit of something, a little bit of everything. And when I had the Showtime card on, I got to the fourth round. I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna switch to ESPN and watch the Franco fight or whatever it was on. When the Franco fight started to slow down, maybe like I forget what round, I went back to the Regal fight and watched maybe round 6, 7, or 8, one of those. And then through the whole round, I'm just like, holy fuck, man! Did this guy throw one punch? I was just like, I couldn't even remember if he threw one punch the whole 3 minutes that I watched. And I was just amazed that people gave him that round. And if we're going by the logic that Regal fans are using, Casimero won because he was throwing, and even though he was missing his head, he was still touching his body and shoulders. So if you want to go that route, he still lost. That was a terrible fight.
Absolutely. Very well said. And listen, you dodged a big old bullet, let me tell you, man. Because, caller, are you aware
And you know what? I will gladly go buy tickets to Nonito versus Casimero, because I know I'm going to get my money's worth.
Exactly.
I will go to Carson. I will drive up there, and I will pay for that. And then also my problem was, Showtime, I can't believe they didn't broadcast the prelims. They had Brandon Lee, who is kind of like a big star online, you know, for boxing, coming up. He has a lot of followers, and they didn't even. They put out his fight on a phone recorded video on Twitter. It was like, and it wasn't even an official Showtime account. It was like a fan that had to do it. It was ridiculous.
Oh man, I'm gonna check that out. Yeah, that's that's insane.
Yeah, he dominated too, right? Did he knock the kid out?
He got like 4 knockouts in the first round.
Yeah,
Jeez,
I mean,
that's
and Brendan, listen, I'm high on that kid, Brendan Lee. I think he's legit. He's got serious power. I just don't like the fact he's with the PBC because I just don't think they.
He reminds me kind of
on good.
I'm sorry.
No. Finish.
I was going to say he kind of reminds me of like a kind of like Triple G in a way, if that makes sense. The way he kind of just goes forward and he's just so strong, man. It's kind of freaky. It's like because he doesn't look that big, but he's just so strong. It's weird.
Yeah, man.
I mean, he's a very powerful puncher.
It's going to be interesting to keep an eye on him. That's for sure.
What's his record now, guys? Anybody know off the top of your head what? How far along is he?
I think it's 23-0.
23. No, okay. Now it's time to start moving up the competition.
23-0, 22 or 20 knockouts.
But unfortunately, with the PBC, that's the problem with them. I mean, it's not a one-off. You just go. The fact that they have to constantly rely on people from other promotions who are promoted to a certain level to come in and save their pay-per-views tells you right there. They have to get fucking Manny off the top rank heap. They're begging for fucking Golden Boy's Canelo, who brought him up. Like they need other people because they can't promote people to that next level. He doesn't do it because he doesn't match them tough. You can only talk your way into popularity, like what they're trying to do with Davis, with Ellaby. I mean, that's a joke.
Oh,
the nebulous terms. Come on, the most exciting boxer and. What's the analytics you use to arrive to that point? It's just ridiculous, and I just don't think they purposely don't match these kids tough enough to save that O, but it doesn't bring them, and it shows when they get to the top level. Yeah. I mean, look at Spence himself. I don't think he's progressed. I think he's completely been the same since 2017. He hasn't got any better because they just keep putting him in there against guys he's supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, the match. That's why I was.
Spence is 31 too.
Shit, he's a spring chicken, man. Listen, caller, thank you for your call. We gotta move on. Catch you on the next one. I'm gonna call back next time.
All right, no, thank you.
Thank you, man. I wanted to ask him later on about the ticket prices, but I mean, we'll save that for later. Let's go to the wild card. Wild card, 111. You're on the air. 111. What's on your mind? 111. You're on the air.
Hey guys.
How you doing, man?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, man. What's on your mind?
Okay, so I heard Steve's opinion about Boots and what's the kid's name?
Ortiz?
Ortiz, yeah. So the way I look at it, just on the eye test, I think Boots has more variety in his skills. I see he can fight on the inside. He's just more athletic. I can actually see him going up to 168 and being competitive at that way. He's a big dude. What do you guys think? I didn't hear your opinion.
Jimmy, you want to take that one?
Yes, I agree with you. I think the naturally more gifted athlete is Boots Ennis. Like, he's that kid I talk about. No matter what, you put a basketball in his hand, baseball, he's just gonna be a great athlete. Fast twitch fibers. He's a thinker. I mean, put it this way, I think he's going to be avoided by everybody in the fucking welterweight division. In the PBC, I think they're going to be hard pressed to get anybody to go in there with. But this way, has anybody ever hear anybody calling him out from the PBC? You got Thurman saying, I never even heard of him. Like, Boots is going to be a class act because I would have got on Twitter and fucking eviscerated him. And he didn't even say nothing. But, yeah, I'm very high on Boots. And Steve was actually, I heard of him from Steve. Like Steve said a few years ago, he wrote an article about him. That's what first got my attention. So, these are the welterweights of the future, man. This crop that's been tied into the PBC since 2015, since they first popped onto the scene, they started in the wrong way. Too much money for bad opponents, and it got into that. It just set a bad precedent. Now it's like a new world order. We're going to start over with these young crop of welterweights who seem to want to fight each other.
Yeah, man.
Now the only thing is, Now one thing that Virgil has shown me that I haven't seen from Boots is that dog, mentality that you need for every great fighter. He can come back from adversity. I haven't seen Boots really get into that kind of trouble, but then again, he hasn't fought anybody.
Exactly, brother. I was going to say to your point, it's just I don't think it's been forced out of him yet because he's been so dominant. He hasn't had to work from that position, and that's what Steve meant by it's important, like what Golden Boy's doing. You don't know what you got until you know. So you won't find that out until you match these kids against something who's going to bring that out of them. And that kid, that poor Lithuanian, brought that out of him. He hurt Ortiz, without a doubt. He was shook with that shot, and he came back. He showed you that he didn't collapse, didn't fold in on himself. You know what I mean? He did everything right. So, yeah. But I think that's the reason why. I think Boots could have that, but he just hasn't been forced to fight that way yet.
Yeah, you noticed Virgil didn't get on his bicycle when he got hurt either. He basically made him back up with a body shot. That showed me something.
Yeah, but is it just me, or does Virgil Ortiz seem a little, just a little wobbly? Because when he fought Hooker, and Hooker was a big puncher at 140, but this was at 147, and it seemed to me like he stunned Ortiz a little bit. Then we saw him stunned last night. I think if he loses, it's gonna be by knockout. Or am I extrapolating too much here?
I don't know if I would call him chinny yet. Listen, that shot he took from you in the first round when the fight is at his peak, he caught him flush. And he took it. He was rocked, but he took it. And he didn't go down. I think it's still, yes. Does he have that triple G chin that no matter who hits him, it doesn't seem to rock him? Probably not. That's a once in a lifetime type of generational chin. But I think he has enough of a chin that if he rolls with it, keeps a high guard, like I agree with Steve, he needs to drop that right hand a little bit to help him shoot that shot off quicker, definitely straighter and quicker. But I think he has a sufficient enough chin. But I could be wrong. You could be 100% right, BDA. Maybe he might get exposed against. And I'm going to be honest. I personally don't want to see him go up against Crawford next. I think that's too much of a leap. I'd like to see one more, a little above, but then it's a question: is anybody out there? But I think that's just a little bit much right now for me of a jump. But what do you think?
Caller, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's too early for that. Let's see him get in there with Thurman or somebody like that. And another point with your what I was saying earlier, like for example, a guy like Shakur Stevenson, all the talent in the world, but his last fight, I didn't see that dog. Like, you need that in every great fighter, no matter how. Even Floyd, he's slick and everything, but he showed he had some dog when he got hit by Mosley. So if you don't have that, no matter how talented you are, it's never going to be like an all-time great fighter.
That's an excellent point, and that's something that you can't buy. It's like you can buy the best strength and conditioning and all that, but that
can't teach toughness.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, anyway,
dude, that's what I say about Charlo, right? I mean, the difference. Charlos are grade A athletes, but they're not grade A fighters.
Yeah, that's the difference, man. It's the X factor you would call it. Listen, caller, thank you for your call. We do have to move on, but call back next time. Yeah, good call. Call back next time, right, man?
All right.
Take it easy out there.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you know what, Jimmy? Because I remember, I forget who it was, but we were talking about that inner resolve, unshakable resolve to just walk through anything, and kind of like Margarito, which some people could call stupidity when he decided to keep going against Pacquiao, even though he had nothing left on his shots. But it's that one thing that you can't buy or recreate in the gym. And some people have said, I forget who it was, but some people were saying, well, I mean, that's what you're supposed to have. Every fighter's supposed to have that. But that's kind of like saying every fighter should have a strong work ethic. That's the difference between a all-time great and a guy that just, had a good career. It's not everyone has that.
All right, perfect example, BDA, to your point. Mickey Ward, when his hand would break in the first round, like 5 fights in a row after it got fucking shattered by the police, it would just shatter. He had an accordion for a hand, so it would just crumble up on him in the first round. but he never would quit. He had everybody, people running up to the corner. Your hand's broken. It was obvious when the hand's broken. You just can tell. But he would never quit. He'd go all 10 rounds, most of the time taking beatings because he's got a broken hand. But he wouldn't. But he would, in for chump change, 25 grand. Like, dude, why? He's like, fuck it. They're not gonna fucking. It's not gonna be TKO or knockout. You know, one-handed, you still couldn't stop. So it's that inner thing. At that point, now you're just showing like I'm that tough. You pay for it later in years in life, a lot of them. But it's that thing that like I don't have. Like I broke my hand. Fuck that. You're not beating on my head for the next fucking 33 minutes. It's not happening. But some guys like Mickey don't. Fuck that. They're gonna stay in there and do what it has to do. But they're gonna be there at the end. And that's special, like you said, the X factor.
It's a messy thing, right? The whole quitting thing. Because first of all, there's different ways of quitting, like we saw last night. In a way, Rigondeaux quit, or there's guys that they quit in between rounds, and you know they wait until their trainer asks them, "Do you want me to stop the fight?" And they won't answer. That's a tacit way of saying I'm done. So there's different ways of quitting, exactly. But there's guys out there that will not quit no matter what, even if there's no logical explanation for, like, because like you said,
bingo, no logic behind it.
Exactly,
and they still stay in there.
Yeah, that's the thing that you want to look for in a fighter, and for some it never goes. I still remember when Costa Tszyu, quote unquote, quit against Ricky Hatton, and yeah, he had one round to go. But he said, look, at 30, how old was he? 34, 35? And you know, he'd been off long layoffs, by the way, after a whole bunch of operations. And he finally said, look, I don't want to go one more round of this. And it turns out he had a bruised brain. So maybe intuitively he knew there was something wrong with his body. I don't know, but I remember some people gave him flack for it, but he gave it his best shot for 11 rounds and it wasn't going to work out. So in that sense, I didn't really mind it. But then again, there's guys, like I said, Margarito, quitting never enters his mind. He's willing to die in there.
No.
And that's
that's it right there. Willing to die. You hear that all the time. I'm willing to die. Remember Saunders when he dogged, what's his name after, Brooke? Remember oh, fucking, I'd never quit. I had 2 broken oracle bones. Yeah? You want to take that one back? Not only that, he retired now, right? Didn't he already announce his retirement?
I think
He's
so,
not going to fight again.
And there was a rumor going on. Did you hear the rumor that he was going around looking for a doctor to validate the fact that he had a broken orbital?
Really? No, it was crushed in. I mean, you could see the indentation. It was an absolute fracture of his eye. I can't say how to be. Instant pooling of blood. Probably tore a retina too. And but it was sunken in. I mean, didn't he have surgery? I thought they had to have surgery to repair it. And put this way, who knew? Canelo knew. He knew right away. Went to the corner, didn't sit down. He said, "This fight's over. I broke his eye." That's what he said in Spanish to him. I broke his eye socket. He knew it. He probably felt it actually crush. Ugh. That was a devastating shot, man. Devastating shot.
Yeah, man. But so that's it. Goes back to that whole thing. Is this, like you said, you hear these fighters saying, "I'm willing to die." Isn't that what Rigondeaux said, by the way, in the build-up to last night's fight? I think he said.
Oh yeah, he's said that before. Yeah, no, they all say that. But it's again, are you willing to die until you take the shot? You know what I mean? Till you're in that position of somebody's really thumping on your skull. He took one in the back of the head, and when you're older, right, you don't recover like you used to when you're young. So we don't know how much that really hurt him. Was he really like goofy after that punch to the head? And he just didn't want to feel that again. Probably figured he didn't want to take it. I'm not making excuses for him, but I'm just saying I think that punch did shook him that much that he didn't want to feel it again, and obviously did whatever he had to do not to get caught again.
Yeah, because that's the thing, though. Some punches, if anyone's ever boxed before, they'll know what I'm talking about. But listen, I've never boxed without headgear, so I don't know what it feels like to get hit with 10-ounce, 8-ounce gloves. And, especially when it's just essentially foam and encased around a fucking cast. Essentially, that's what it is. It's right. So I don't know what it feels like. But in sparring, I don't really feel the shot. I mean, I feel shaken up if a guy hits me correctly, and if he hits me right on the chin, I will see white. But I never feel pain, as in when, like, put it this way: when you get hit in the nose, that's pain. When you get hit in the liver, that's pain. But other than that, there's unless you get hit with a headbutt or an elbow or something, that you don't really feel pain, especially with the adrenaline surging through your body.
the back of the head can be tricky if you don't see it coming. You know what I mean? It doesn't take much. A lot of times you'll see it almost looks like glancing blows, and it makes them goofy. It just hits it the right way. That's the reason why rabbit punches are so illegal, because you're only receptible. Well, even the movies always hit somebody in the back of the head to knock them out. But obviously the chin, right on the button, is the best place to put somebody out. But you know what's funny too, though? I gotta say, if this was the days of the mob when they still ran the game, when you knew straight up the Gambinos were putting on this fight, the difference is Rigo, someone like that would end up in the back of a trunk.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it was made money off of betting, was always the driving force, was always the gambling. People would see that and say, this was fixed. That motherfucker threw the fight. He ran. Like, he didn't try to fight. So that could, like, get people in trouble. So, you know, to all the mob's ugliness and their, you know, all the shit they did, one thing I got to say, I think they kept a lot of fighters from a lot of shenanigans that they were too afraid to have pulled in the ring. Not if that's a good thing, but at least that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, there's that detriment there, perhaps, man. Not Michael Poe, sorry, who is it? Quag says, you don't feel blunt damage, PDA. Well, listen, again, I'm sparring with 16-ounce gloves and headgear. It's a whole other thing to be in the ring there with a guy who's got 8-ounce gloves. I mean, and I've told people, I told a guy he had those pro gloves, and I say, hit me on the elbows just to see what it feels like. And oof, I can only. Chris Bird said that. You know, Jimmy, remember when Chris Bird was here? And he said after the. Well, this was a special case because he was fighting a giant. But when he fought, what was his name again? Big dude, 6'5", 6'6" tall guy, Mac. He beat Michael Grant, but it was because he twisted his ankle. Jamil McClain. Jamil McClain.
I can't remember his name either.
Jamil McClain. He said he couldn't walk the next day. His whole body was numb from taking shots from that giant. And De La Hoya said something interesting too during his. He talked about the John Molina fight, which, you know, you look at that fight, you go, all right, it was just a rough and tumble affair when he was fighting a veteran. But De La Hoya said that he couldn't walk either the next day. Because it's those shots that we don't see and we don't feel on the elbow, on the body, you know, shoulders. Those things leave you numb the rest of the, 2, 3, 5 days straight.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was Rocky Marciano's whole game plan. He would just literally beat your arms till you couldn't lift them up to protect your head. It's Charlie horses. Everybody's been punched in the arm. You like get stiff. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it's night and day. An 8-ounce mitten compared to a 14-ounce or even 12-ounce pillow glove, you know, a sparring glove. And if it's horsehair, forget about it. I mean, a puncher's glove, you know, and they start sweating and that gauze gets wet and heavy. By the end of the fight, man, it's literally a quarter inch of horsehair over some leather. Mm-hmm. I'd rather be punched by an open knuckle, to be totally honest with you. Because they're not going to throw as hard because it damages your hand. It's as much to protect the hands as it is to protect people's faces, those gloves. You know what I mean? There's a reason. I mean, they went to gloves in the first place. It wasn't because to stop damage to the human face and head. They did that, they made boxing gloves. They went to gloves when pro boxing first went to it. It was because protect the hands. It was always hand injuries what were keeping fighters from fighting, you know, prolonging their career. So the whole introduction of gloves was never about protection to the head and face. It was for the protection of the hands.
Absolutely. And I think it bears repeating, too, that headgear actually, and the bigger gloves as well, too, they actually cause more damage because if a guy's taking, it's not about how much pain you feel that lets you know the amount of damage you're taking. If you put your gloves up and a guy's hitting your gloves, he's still shaking your head around. That's the important thing. It's the brain shaking around. And, you know, a guy like, oh man, what's the guy that beat Dadashev to death? I can't believe I'm blanking out here, but the Puerto Rican fighter with the blonde hair. Anyway, he's one of those worst guys to fight because he's a heavy-handed dude, but he's not gonna put you out with one shot. You can survive just putting your hands up there and letting him hit you, but they're hard shots that are shaking you up, and that's the type. It's a volume power puncher. It's like I like to call. Those are the guys that kill. Well, he already killed somebody. You know, Subra Matias. Yeah, thank you.
To headgear, you're 100% right. I hate most headgear. I used to, Mel, he was the owner of the gym we used to train at, the Acre Boxing Club, and we'd wait till he left and we could lock up, and everybody would take the headgear off because if he was in, put that fucking headgear on. You know what I mean? But I hated the kind that had the stuff that would cover your cheekbone. because that shit always floated up into my eyes. It's hot. You sweat more, and I just didn't like him. Mickey never liked training with him either. You know, he wear it when it would, just to prevent cuts and stuff when you're getting closer to the fight. But that does definitely help, though. It does the extra padding, But it is a big difference, man. Getting in there with 8-ounce mittens opposed to fucking 12-ounce gloves.
Yeah, that's why.
And just think about it. Back in the day, dude, they used to hand them to guys hours before the fight, so your trainer could mark on it. My grandfather used to make a scratch with their fingers. You'd put your glove in, make a fist. He would see where your knuckles are. He'd scratch the leather with his fingernail, and then just work it, so all the padding spread. So by a fucking second round, you're pretty much getting punched by just like you said, a cast. It's.
Jeez.
I mean, just look at the damage. Look at the the pictures, the black and white pictures of back in the day. Some of the damage those dudes' faces had.
Yeah, Bernard Hopkins was talking about that one day about how they would roll the. I mean, not him. He didn't admit it, but I'm suspecting he used to do that too. They would roll the gloves because once those. Yeah, especially the Reyes gloves. Once you actually watch them, they're pretty thin, like a New York pizza, and you can just roll those motherfuckers up. I mean, well, I'm exaggerating, but you
get any pair of fights that gloves that they auctioned off, some championship gloves or anything. You see it, just put them on, you'll feel it. You'll see all the padding's been moved away from where the knuckle is.
Jeez Louise.
You know what I mean? That's the reason why, believe it or not, that you would think UFC gloves hurt more because the padding, but the padding doesn't separate from the knuckle and those gloves because of all the stitching all around your fingers. It's stitched into a smaller area, so there's no room for the material to move away from the knuckles. They're made to cut you. The blood cells, and the UFC is not stupid. They know that. But concussively, I would rather get punched in the head with a full-size pair of UFC gloves than an 8-ounce mitten that's been whacked a few times.
Yeah. Yeah, didn't people also whack him around against the wall?
Oh, they would do all kinds of shit, dude. There were guys who would, back when they used to use cotton, they don't allow cotton anymore. It has to be material, cloth. But they used to use cotton gauze. Gauze, when it gets wet, it turns into like a cast, and you get the tape on it. Yeah, crazy shit.
But you know what?
Crazy shit.
It's interesting that we're talking about this, Jim, because look, that's why I hate to call fighters cowards and all that. Because it is a hard business to make a living off, and it's only a few guys that actually get to make the big bucks. I mean, if you think about all the, for every Canelo Alvarez, or even a guy like the Charlo brothers, who are doing good money from the looks of it, there's hundreds of bucks out there around the world, the Philippines, Mexico, the United States. We're getting paid peanuts for getting back.
8-3 records, the guys, the stepping stones. Oh yeah, without them, the sport collapses. That's why I always respect guys who pay their quality sparring guys good money, because quality sparring helps you, and to get that, so that's the only reason why you get those guys still. You need that underclass, the guys who are 15-7 record. You say, why the fuck are you still going, making $20,000? Most of them still working full time, but without them the sport doesn't exist.
Yeah, they keep the boxing world turning. They're like the wheel. They make up a big
the cog in the machine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. Yeah, the cog in the machine, absolutely. And that's why I think we should be hard on a guy like Rigondeaux, because he's getting paid good money too, probably for that Showtime card, and he decides to stink out the joint like that. I'm sorry, that's unacceptable.
That was terrible, and that's why I kind of agree with Gibbons when he said they should hold back his purse. But then again, you need to fill that. It has to be in the contract. If for whatever reason we feel you didn't, they could try to take him to court because it's an agreement that you're there to put on. It would be a hard case to win, but I could see a good lawyer bending it. But yeah, you're in there as an entertainment. People are spending all that money driving to that arena, dealing with crowds, and just sitting there to watch that. That's, as a promoter, who would you put it this way? Would you hire that kid? Would you put him in one of your shows?
No.
He's toxic now. He just, how are you ever going to, he's going to have to be put on as like the undercard, third undercard, first fight of the evening. He'd be lucky to even get that now, especially at 40 years old. He doesn't have a belt to try to use as leverage. And he walked down the hallway last night as fucking happy as a peacock. He was all smiles, really? That's why I say I think he's a sadist. He truly enjoys inflicting emotional pain on people.
Yeah, exactly, because whether it's in an undercard or in a main event, he always tends, or almost always tends to screw the pooch. I mean, it's just there's something wrong with it.
Exactly.
By the way, let's go to a phone call here. The phone lines are still open for a couple of minutes, fellas, so make sure to get in there if you still want to. 904, you're on the air. 904, what's on your mind?
What up? How you doing? How you doing?
Doing fantastic, man.
But
What's
I'm
on your
just
mind?
saying, like, first of all, what was that?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, first of all, the dude that was talking, I was at the gibberish earlier about getting Mean Machine. First of all, nobody's scared of Mean Machine. What is this, the longest yard, bro? The dude is a joke. So, first of all, the dude get beat up all the time. Got beat up by Ray Robinson, too. So, we actually think that he is going to just scare somebody with Mean Machine, bro, you're tripping. Second of all, Rigo is not a coward. He just fought the way he normally fights. Now, are you going to lose fans by doing that? Yeah, possibly, but we already knew that's the way Rigo fight. He ain't no coward. He does exchange sometimes if he needs to, but he's not really a good exchanger. He did it with Donaire in spurts when he fought Donaire, and he did it with the Japanese guy who he ended up beating to a bloody pulp. So, thing is, I think people's expectations are just all out of whack, and that's all it is.
Well, I don't think our expectations are out of whack because, like you just mentioned, he can show good offense. Last night, though, he was so much on the back foot, he couldn't get anything going.
That was his downfall. Yes, he didn't amount of offense, but then again, I don't think that makes him a coward. He just didn't fight smart. That was just
well. Neither I want to say too. Neither BDA and myself use that term. I don't call anybody willing to step in the ring. I don't call them cowards. Anybody's willing. I don't give a fuck if it's the images or in front of Showtime lights. You're willing to step in the ring. You're not a coward. I agree with you 100%. I don't. And I think when Recognizer was saying it, he was being more metaphorically. You know what I mean? I know in his heart he doesn't think anybody steps in the ring as a coward.
Nah, man, he was trying to stir up some mess, man. Recognizer was trying to do it. He was trying to stir it up.
Well, that's what sometimes we got to do a little bit of that, man, on the show. But look, listen, I will say this, though. I won't call him a coward, but I will call him a trash fighter at this point. Because all he's got is his legs, and he'll throw one shot at a time and hope that the judges buy it. So, listen, yeah, it's good footwork.
I don't think he's a trash fighter either. I mean, Casimero is one of the best at his class, so, I mean, it's just not really saying much if you lose to him.
But the way you lose and the way you perform, that's what I'm looking at. And look, yeah, beautiful footwork to shut a guy down like that. But that's all he's got. Good for it's almost.
And what was strange, he was catching Casimero too.
Lomachenko lost like seven rounds. Teofimo, is he a trash fighter now?
Well, no, because when he finally decided to turn it up, he showed that it was a complete 180.
Those first 5 rounds were a trash performance. I don't agree with how he handled the fight. I would classify what he did in the first 5 rounds, not engaging, as trash.
Yeah, that was.
I have no problem saying that.
Those were solidly trashy rounds.
Exactly. I have no problem, dubbing him with that on that. But everything else, when he decided to fight, he was beating Teofimo.
I mean, yeah, I thought that was one of his worst performances ever, and Orlando Toledo included. That's just, I mean, yeah, sometimes bad performances happen. I just think that's just a part of boxing. Rigo is no different.
Point. Yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes, listen, it's also the context. Nobody goes in there 100%, and sometimes some guys, whatever happens in between fights, maybe layoffs. He's 40 years old, and he did have a lot of layoffs, but my thing is, it's not the first time he's done this. Like you said, Caller, he's shown fights where he can actually string together some good shots, and then there's other fights, like on the Cotto Canelo undercard. I forget some Filipino he fought. It was an atrocious fight. It was like last night. He didn't do anything. Against Agbeko, it's just too many performances where he just.
It's almost to the point. Like, was he mad at the promoter and he wanted to do that on purpose?
Maybe.
Oh, sorry, Caller, go.
Yeah, Caller, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jimmy.
Oh no, I was just saying. You never know behind the scenes. Did the promoter piss him off? Because he's shown I was actually looking forward to this fight over what Rigondeaux has shown recently. I thought maybe his legs had got to the point where he couldn't run. He proved me wrong there. Crazy fitness. I got to give him his props. He definitely put his road work in to move like that for 12 rounds. But I don't know. I mean, Casimero was there to be hit, too. I mean, he showed he could hit him. And Ronnie Shields was even pleading with him. He's like, dude, you touched the kid. Keep it going. You know, but who knows? Rigondeaux's not going to say that. Maybe he hurt his hands. Maybe he hurt his left hand. Who knows? He didn't say it. Was he mad at the promoter? I don't know. I'll admit, I was shocked. I thought he put in a little bit more. But then at the end of the day, he landed 44 punches. Casimero landed 47. I think it should have been a draw myself, only because, I don't know. Casimero might have cut the ring off in some cases, but he didn't do what he had to do when he got the ring cut off. He could have tried to do a few, let his hands go a bit more, but...
A little bit. Anyway, caller, anything else you want to add before we move on?
I think what it is I don't think it's any of that. I don't think he hurt his hand or just that he just completely was morphed into a new fighter. It's just that Rigo is just what it is. The thing is, it's just one of the hardest things about boxing, and as a boxing fan, is that you have to realize that a lot of these boxers just will never resort to anything new. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. I hate to say that because I really am a fan of people really improving themselves even when they're down, down and putting themselves in a hole. There are some fighters that really was in a bad spot that really brought themselves to a whole nother level. Jamel Charlo turned himself into a completely different fighter. Okay, let me take that back. I'll use Terrence Crawford as an example. Terrence Crawford turned himself into a completely different fighter after he fought Gamboa. So the thing is, you can put yourself to a whole new level. You just gotta be willing to put it in action.
All right. No, that's okay, man. Well, listen, good. You made some good points, caller. I agree with a lot of it. And I guess, you know what? I guess we keep our eye on Rigondeaux, see if he gets a second. I mean, actually, it's his fifth chance now. I wouldn't mind seeing him against Inoue, man, just to see if Inoue can cut the ring off better than Casimero did, and then see if he can get his ass out of there. But anyway, listen, caller, we're gonna move on. Thank you for your call, and have yourself a great Sunday evening. All right, man.
All right, man.
All right, take it easy, man.
Now, Casimero, how much bigger is he? Is he a lot heavier, naturally heavier than Inoue?
That's a good question. Well, Inoue is coming up, and Casimero, from what I understand, I think for the most part, he's been a 118. Let me check the dimensions.
So they're not too okay. Because I was wondering, what sucks is he, of course, Casimiro's with the PBC, so that how much, right? So that is he with the? Yeah, so he doesn't go across the aisle. But I mean, he gave the middle finger to Inoue at the end there, and Gray was like, "That was colorful." when he flipped off and he says, "I got 3 people," and he left his middle finger up at the end. Fuck you, Inoue, he said. So it's like, dude, all right, but if you're not going to make the fight, then that's kind of just childish. I personally think Inoue would fucking school him. But
yeah, Inoue would spark Casimero out of there because Inoue would not run. He would actually stand his ground and counter. In fact, the same goes for Donaire. I think Donaire sparks Casimero,
yeah. Because his punch selection, the Japanese kid he's got a great punch selection. Every punch he throws excellent. Every punch he throws with bad intentions, and he's deadly. Probably one of the best body punches right now in boxing. And I think that what you saw this last out. I mean, he literally beat that kid's body till he just couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah, that's scary,
he took
man.
him out with body shots. That was scary. That's worse than getting hit in the head, I'll tell you. Much rather take headshots.
Yeah, that's the... Oh, shit, hold on. So, who's calling everybody? Somebody's calling everybody. All right, anyway.
Hello.
Yo, Chief,
Recognize the Matrix!
Sorry, Chiefs. We accidentally dialed you, man. Sorry about that. We're still on the air, by the way. We're still on the air. Cool. What was I going to say?
I got a minute.
Well, I mean, if you want to, because we're still on the air, but accidentally dialed you up. What I was going to say was, to the caller's point, sorry. Okay, 2 things. I got sidetracked here. According to BoxRec, Naoya Inoue is 5 feet 5 inches tall, and Casimero is 5 feet 4 inches tall. There's an inch of a height difference. Casimero has 64-inch reach. Inoue 67 and a half. So he's a longer.
Okay. So he naturally bigger and wider. I mean, longer. I didn't know if Casimero had come down in weight. I thought that's what you were saying. I don't know if he was a naturally heftier kid. Okay, Casimero, so then he's high. Inoue would fucking dollywop his ass.
Casimero's first weight class of championship was 105, whereas Inoue's was 108. Inoue jumped straight to 115, where he beat I think Navarro, I think was his last name, is a Argentinian guy, had a buttload of title defenses.
Oh yeah,
and then he moved up to 118.
Mm-hmm.
And Casimero, I don't know if he got a full-fledged 115-pound title or if it was an interim, but he won 108, 105, 108, 112, and I think this is...
Chief, how do you think Casimero would how do you think he would go against Inoue? How would you see that fight working out?
If he came out guns a-blazing, it'd be entertaining for a few rounds just from his firepower, but Inoue just knows what he's doing. He knows how to handle. He'll weather the storm. He can fight inside of fire, and he'll knock him out.
And can I say, too, over in Japan, by the way, guys, it's like Mike Tyson in the 80s here. I just talked to somebody who spent the last 2 months in Japan. He said it's like he hasn't seen, because he's a boxing fan, he's like, hasn't seen that type of national fervor behind a boxer since the days of Tyson.
Well,
He's
here.
They're
huge over there.
Yeah. Well, he particularly is huge over there. They're champions altogether. I remember watching something on HBO a while back, and I don't remember how long ago it was, but Max Kellerman was new to the broadcast. They talked about champions in a particular division. There was a Japanese fighter, don't remember his name, but he was saying, this guy gets actual Super Bowl worthy ratings over in Japan. So it's
gets
not
swamped everywhere he goes, bro. He shows up in public, and if they know he's there, like people swamp him like autographs.
And so
Chief, I think
but that guy's not nearly as popular as Inoue is. So that's what I'm trying to get.
Oh, Chief dropped out. All right. By the way, I think the guy that he's talking about, that was Koki Kameda, I think. He would get like 70 million views per fight. Something crazy like that.
And Inoue's even bigger. No, it's huge. He's a huge to the monster. I mean, look at the people he fights. The level of talent. Like Virgil Ortiz. I was just looking where Steve was talking. I just went back and looked at his box rec just to see the guys he's fought. I mean, it's just the polar opposite of somebody like... would say Davis. I mean, they're putting that kid on pay-per-views, and he hasn't had a legitimate opponent in 4 years. I mean, that's just nuts.
Yeah, man.
Manufacture greatness.
Yeah, that's what it is, man. It's just, and they don't want to even play ball with other promoters. I mean, that's just insane. Oh, hold on a second. We got somebody calling in.
And can I say why that's still not happening? Why I still think the Sean Porter fight's going to fall through? Like Steve's saying, he's here and it's not looking good.
Can you hold on to that, Jimmy?
Because Sean Porter was in a pay-per-view with fucking Errol Spence, and he would have to open up the books and show exactly what that pay-per-view did. And they don't want to do that because, like I said the other night, you're going to tell me that Triple G, Danny Jacobs, did 170,000 buys per HBO, so you know it's on the money. They pay tax on that. You're going to tell me that fucking Davis versus what's his name sold more? Fuck out of here.
All right, let me go real quick here to a phone call. 956, you're on the air. 956, what's on your mind?
Hello. I was gonna say who called Rigo trash? I'm curious.
I did.
Okay. I mean, I know it's an opinion, but come on. I mean, a two-time Olympic gold medalist. He beat Donaire. I know. He's boring. I get it. But come on. Trash? Okay, I know he's trash now. He's like 45.
Well, there you go. You just agree with me. You're
going to say he's trash, man. Come on, man.
You just agreed with me. You said, now he's trash. You agree
okay,
with me.
First of all, Donaire was in 2013.
I'm saying he's trash. Like, come on. Like, let's drop that. I know he's boring, but he's not trash, dude. Like, that's a stretch. You can't win two gold medals.
It's what do you consider the terminology trash? He's just using it as that was a trash performance, right? I mean, it was.
Well, let me weigh in on this a little bit. Here's the situation when it comes to especially Rigo. He goes out of his way to fight what he wants, how he wants to, when he wants to his satisfaction, regardless of what pays him, what his opponent does, what his promoters want, what his corner wants, or what pleases the fans. That is trash. That's like an actor that consistently puts out bad performances, but thinks he's the greatest actor that's ever lived.
Well, listen, caller.
He doesn't think that. Rigo doesn't think that, dude.
Okay,
well, Rigo, y'all are like
his actions speak differently than your opinion.
Y'all, wait. Y'all are creating like fake, made up scenarios in your head. Rigo has never acted like he's the best in the world. He's just he's just a fucking boxer, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, Rigo, he's boring. I get it, but come on, guy, come on. The dude has some skill. Yeah, he's old. He's 45.
I gotta go.
Yeah, he's washed up, but come on.
You know
he's
why?
not trash. Look at his fights when he was in the amateurs. Look at his Donaire fight. Come on.
You mean 8 years ago? But caller, come on, man. Let's listen. You said yourself that he's trash now. That's number one. Number two.
I didn't say that.
Hold on. Caller, hold on.
You just said it a minute ago.
Okay, caller, hold on. Number two, the reason why you've never heard Rigondeaux say he's the best is because he knows he's not the best, especially after the performance he put on last night. Nobody in the right, he's not that crazy. Let's just put it that way. And three, and hold on, number three.
Hold on.
But hold on, number three. Hold on. Okay, you didn't say he was trash. Okay, you didn't say he was trash. But number three, look, I'll be able to compromise. I'm a reasonable man. I'll say he's trash as entertainment. Would that work for you?
Well, the trash entertainment at the end of the day, I mean, entertainment.
You can argue with that, right?
Is this pole dancing? Is this pole dancing? Is this a comedy show? Are these guys supposed to entertain you? I mean, it's a sport after all. I mean, these guys have families that have to, pay for. You know what I'm saying?
Supposed to entertain you.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
it's sports entertainment.
The main thing about boxing isn't about to entertain the fans. It's about to get a W. No, I get it. Mayweather fights like a bitch. Rigo fights like a bitch. I get that. But at the end of the day, come on. You can't win 2 gold medals and beat Donaire and be trash. No, I know you're saying he's trash in terms of entertaining the fans, but that doesn't matter, dude. It's like some of these dudes don't give a fuck about other people's opinions. For example,
that's fine, and then we have a right to judge
one at a time. Hold on. Hold on. Let the caller finish and then recognize there you go. But go ahead, caller.
No, I want to say Billy is the type of guy, even Tyson Fury too, they don't give a fuck what other people have to say about them. So what I'm saying is, you calling them boring, what does that do? It doesn't do anything. It's just, I mean, these guys are out here making money.
I gotta go after recognize. I gotta address this too.
When you're boring, I'm gonna call you boring. I don't give a fuck if you don't give a fuck that I think you're boring, right? Who cares? We're talking boxing. He did a boring performance, and I think he was boring, and I'm going to express that he was boring.
And to recognize to
let me say this. I don't like Mayweather. All right, I hate Mayweather. This is weird, but I'm actually a Rigo fan, but I don't like Mayweather. I hate Mayweather. But at the same time, I'm gonna admit the dude has skills. He's not. I would never call Mayweather trash. I would never call Rigo trash. I would never call Lara. They're boring, yes, but come on.
That's because you like the courage. You like the courage. You like the courage to walk. You like the courage to walk the path. It's like Morpheus said in the Matrix. There's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. You're not walking the path. You're still in hypotheticals in the world of Aristotle of thoughts. All thoughts are better than life. There's a world outside your mind, my friend. You need to go in there and experience it and call fighters trash when they deserve to be called trash. Jimmy, go ahead. School this guy.
Well, I just wanted to say to his point when you said they don't care. There's fighters out there don't give a fuck. Those fighters don't get wealthy. Those fighters don't get picked up. If you're not willing to, entertain people, you're not going to get promoted. You're not going to listen. There's a reason Rigondeaux he's in debt to the community, Cuban communities, borrowing $500,000 from, selling pieces of himself to everybody down in Miami because he lost contracts everywhere. He signed a big deal with the HBO, 5-fight deal. It was worth millions. I might be quoting the number wrong, but I know they bounced him after fucking 2 fights and didn't pay him his money. And he had already bought a house against that and all this other shit, and he found himself upside down. So my point is, if you don't care what the people, because without fans, this shit don't exist. We own this motherfucker. We're the ones who buy the pay-per-views, spend the money, go to the tickets. I've bought a house for what I spent on fucking going to professional boxing matches. And if these motherfuckers did what Rigo did, I would have never bought one ticket, and nobody else would either, and the sport would be dead.
An example of a multimillionaire, and he's considered boring to the fans, is Billy Joe Saunders. So I mean, your point doesn't make any sense because there's holes in it. Because I can name a lot of boring fighters that are multimillionaires. Lara, Billy. Like, come on, like, I know what you're saying. I know you're a fan. Yeah, they're boring, but I'm somebody who's boxed. Okay, I've actually boxed. at a pretty high level in the amateur, so I know. I don't call certain styles boring. Like because I look at boxing.
Do you run like that when you box?
When a fan watches boxing, hold on. When a fan watches boxing, they're just there to be entertained. They don't know how it is to be in the fighter's shoes. I mean,
okay, but what about when Mickey Ward calls that shit boring?
Hold on, recognize. Hold on.
Mickey Ward calls that boring.
I can appreciate.
Hold on.
I can appreciate certain shit.
Recognize. Go ahead.
I can appreciate certain skills.
When you said that you boxed the amateurs and you were pretty high. Did you run like that? Because I know you didn't win if you ran like that. I know you didn't win. I know that for a fact.
No, honestly, I think no. I think I would say that my style was more so like Usyk. I would say Usyk is a fighter I really looked up to a lot.
You ran.
I would say my style was
but
like
the question was, did you run like the question was? I'm not asking you your style. I'm saying run like Rigo did in last night's fight as an amateur. Because I know if you did, I know you lost. That means you you get penalized for that.
No, I know. I never ran
in the amateurs.
I never ran that bad. No. I'll admit, Rigo ran like a bitch yesterday night. He did run like a bitch. Dude.
What's the problem?
Come on, he's 40, dude. He's 40 years old.
So hold on. So you can call him a bitch. You can call him a bitch, but I get a whole fucking lecture because I call him trash. Come on, man. What the fuck is this? Listen,
90 seconds. There's a difference.
There's a difference.
When you look, I'm not calling Rigo trash because I watched Rigo in his prime. He's far from trash in his prime. All I'm saying is that, come on, calling him trash is a stretch. You can call him overrated. Dude, calling him trash, come on now, dude. This trash is Wilder. Trash is Tank. Trash is Spence.
Usyk,
dude,
I'll tell you this.
Rigo is way more skilled, dude.
All right, Alexander Usyk, I'll tell you this. You've never ran like Rigondeaux, so I think it's pretty fair to say that you are less trash than Rigondeaux, because at least you didn't run that way. What we saw last night, that was trash. That was a trash performance. I appreciate it. I'm here to spread the love. What we saw last night from Rigondeaux, caller, was trash, man. I'm sorry, it was trash. And yes, I understand your point. He's got good skills. Back in the day when he schooled Donaire, that was a beautiful performance. He was snapping his head back. But what we have now is trash, and I am not afraid to call him trash. Listen, if I censor myself, if we censor each other, if I start censoring, recognize Jimmy Gonzalo, what's the show then? Nobody voices their opinion because we're all afraid of calling a guy trash. Trash, it's what it is, man. All right? So we got to move on.
And can I just say real quick, I don't agree with the I fought at a high level. There's a lot of people who fought at high levels who aren't good at converting their knowledge into words or expressing themselves. Some of the best hockey coaches I've ever had never played hockey at any kind of level. And they were the best coaches. So I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't attribute, you can't say you don't know unless you fought. There's certain things you might not understand as much, but knowledge, Steve Kim was never a professional fighter, and I'd match his wits against anybody in the industries when it comes to boxing. That's cool. So I don't, you know what I mean? I just don't buy that.
Well, listen, I'll give the caller the last word, and then we. Well, go ahead, caller. You get the last word, and then we gotta move on.
It's cope. It's cope. It's cope. 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 So that was just a bunch of blob of cope. So I was gonna say, look, Rigo's trash. Okay, I guess
he agrees with me again.
And beating Donaire is trash. All right. Hey, BDA, thank you for letting me off like 10 minutes. I appreciate it.
No, but it was a good call, mate. It was a good call. You stirred the pot. That's what we want here. We can't always agree with everybody. Shout out to the caller for his contribution. No, it's true. Right. I mean, look, listen. I
What's
like
cope mean? What was he insinuating? Cope. That was cope.
It means that we were butthurt, essentially, and that we were coping with. You know what coping means? Like we're trying to rationalize our butthurt. That's what he meant by that. But they call it
everything he talked about when it came to defending Rigo, he's talking about 2013 when he beat Donaire. He's talking about the amateur days. He's not talking about right now. He's not talking about when Lomachenko made him do the no mas, and he's not talking about last night's fight, right? Or actually, he agrees. He agrees that it was a bad fight by him.
He said he was an Alexander Usyk level amateur, so I mean, I guess he can.
Okay, that's right. Listen. I don't know him to say he's bullshitting, right? But I know one thing. I know something about the amateurs because I competed in it. I know you didn't run like that and win the fight. In fact, if you would have ran like that, there's a good chance you get penalized and the fight gets stopped in the amateurs. running like that. Yes.
That was a very congruent point you made there. Recognize that was that's and he.
And I think, but to the caller's point, he didn't say he was at the same level. I think he said he emulated or was that style.
He's like a Usyk, right?
Yeah, I don't think he called him.
No. He said he's. In fact, I think I heard him said he won 2 gold medals like Usyk. That's what I heard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're better here than I do.
No, I'm kidding.
I heard it too.
I'm kidding. Listen, we still got more calls here. Let's go to 351. 351, you're on. Hold on. 351, you're on the air. What's on your mind?
What's up, fellas? Mike Pope.
Oh, Michael. Thank you for calling in, man. What's on your mind?
Mike, what's up, buddy?
The fight is trash. He is trash. I don't care what that guy said. That was ridiculous. I don't care what he was in his prime. In his prime, he didn't fight like entertaining. Boring as shit. Dude was running around the ring and looked like Benny Hill when you put that speed up. I mean, Jesus Christ.
You do look like Benny Hill. That's a good point.
I'm trying to add some levity, but listen, it is what it
Someone
is.
tweeted that out this morning.
I swear to God, he reminded me. Was it who was the guy that cried in the ring? Was it Oliver McCall? Who was the guy that cried against Lewis?
Oliver McCall.
Right. So I was right. All right. Dude, he just reminded me of somebody that is just like, I don't even want to be here. For some reason, it just gave me that impression. It's like, he's mentally drained.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
If he ever did fight differently, tell me a fight and I'll look it up because I don't see everything. But
when he's in his boxing stance, it's more or less the same. Maybe his hands were held a little tighter and they're a little bit more firmed up. And I've never seen him run like that. Yeah. I've seen him backed up before, obviously, but never like running like
seen him
the way he did.
Loma's arms.
Yeah,
he wouldn't let go of Loma's arms.
Oh yeah.
Well, he just quit, bro. He just quit. He just said, man, fuck this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what?
I'm not getting.
Mike,
how can they say Loma's a weight bully? I was just gonna. I know we off topic, but I saw a picture of Lopez, and he was training. I don't know for what fight, and he was with Triple G. A picture. He was the same size, even bigger, in his arms and chest. That dude came in and fight at least one.
Mike, that whole weight bully thing is such bullshit. Well, that whole weight bully thing when it comes to Lomachenko, I think Lomachenko purposely did that. He did nothing in the ring that night that was dependent upon his size differential. Everything was all about skill. Everything he did was about skill.
True,
you know what I'm saying? There was a larger size disparity between Spence, Ricky Garcia than there was between Lomachenko and Rigondeaux.
No, I understand. I just got off topic for a minute because rewatching.
Oh no, I was agreeing with you. I was just saying that's the excuse everybody used. It was wrong.
Size may not have played a part, but it kind of did because, I mean, either you're in the weight class or not. I mean, some of his straight rights look like they were coming from somebody like the younger Charlo brother. I mean, the dude was popping off power shots, but I don't know.
Yeah, it was. It was a bad performance.
They have to be taken care of more safely. I understand about the hydration and the safety, but on fight night, they got to make sure these guys can't be over a certain weight.
Listen, Mike, I think Recognize hit the nail on the head when he said midway through the fight, this guy's scared. He's quitting. That's what he did. He quit midway through the fight, and he didn't outright quit in the sense that I don't want to be here. I want to get out of the ring now. But he essentially said, I don't want to fight anymore.
Yep.
That's what it was. Anyway, listen, Mike, we got.
Oh, by the way, Billy Joe Saunders thing is true. He did try to pay off a doctor, and the guy declined him.
That's what I heard, man. I find that whole situation weird because it looked like he broke his fucking shit, but then I'm like, did he? Or did he just give him a bad black eye?
Yeah, that's what I said.
But how did he? But the dent, though, man, it's the dent that is obviously there.
Images could be deceiving. Images could be deceiving.
But I looked at even on the camera, dude, as I was drooping. Maybe he was trying to find surgery, find a surgeon to say that it was career-ending or it was worse than just a cracked oracle.
Jimmy, the rumor is straight out. He tried to pay someone to say that he broke his orbital bone.
I mean, if he didn't break it, I'm shocked. I don't know how that fucking
he got a
sunk
black
in like
eye
that.
and he quit. He just got a black eye. He quit, bro. That's it. He just said, "Nah, I'm not doing this anymore." That's it.
I gotta look that up to see if it's true or not. But listen, Michael, we do have to move on.
Recognize some. Well, just one more question. I'll let you guys go. But recognize, like, part of the fight. Somebody in the chat said Billy Joe was doing almost as good up until he got beat as Triple G. I'm like, he didn't even do
no way.
Triple G did. Are you kidding me? I don't know who said it. I forgot the dude, Dave. But
did
that
person actually see the fight?
Kidding me?
Billy Joe Saunders was in trouble from the beginning of the fight.
He was in trouble when he signed the contract.
From beginning to end. From beginning to end, he was in trouble. But anyway,
he had no chance of winning. Remember, I didn't even say it. I'm not going to win.
Enjoy you guys.
All right, take it easy, Michael. Thank you for the call, man. Have yourself a great Sunday
All right,
evening.
guys. Thank you.
Take it easy out
All
there.
right.
Triple G actually beat him. I mean, I think handily in the first fight. I think it was one of the worst robberies. When you count the magnitude of the fight, 1.3 million pay-per-view fight, when's the last decision robbery with over 1 million pay-per-views? I would say that's one of the worst in history.
Yeah, and listen, Billy Bob, that's what Kevin from Chicago calls him, Billy Bob Sanders. I think Billy Bob did actually he did okay considering he's fighting supposedly the number one fighter in the world, but yeah, he wasn't doing as well. Golovkin was hurting and shaking Canelo up in there with those jabs, and meanwhile, Billy Joe Sanders' jabs, whenever he did land them, were good. They were head-snapping jabs, but they weren't, like, Canelo was comfortable.
He wasn't throwing them he wasn't throwing his jab at the same time making sure I'm in a position so I can duck out, not to get hit.
Exactly.
Triple G just came forward. I mean, Triple G, honestly, at any time was he rocked. I know that Mannix, that zipperhead, fucking tweeted out, no, Coppinger. Oh, Brooke, no, who was it? Darianchenko, he's got Triple G hurt. He rocked him. Like, what are you talking about, dude? Yeah.
All right, listen, we got another phone call here. Let's go. I think it's the final of the day because the lines are closed. 630, you're on the air. 630, what's on your mind? 630, you're on the air.
You got to call in my final point.
Oh,
my
go ahead,
final
Kevin.
point. Regarding the topic on Virgil Ortiz, the reason I came in Ortiz is because I don't like biased people. They hold one fighter to one standard, they hold another fighter to another standard.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, relax. I know you want to get your point in. I'm gonna get real quick, then you can ramble on.
Nobody said anything.
This is what they said about Ennis. They'll say Ennis is his win. No. They'll say Crawford, he got dropped by nobody. That's what they said. Oh, he got dropped by Mean Machine? How are you going to get dropped by Mean Machine and this and that? But then when Ortiz beats Mean Machine, he wanted, good win. Quality win. He looked good. This and that. It's just, they're biased.
But who was saying that, Kevin? When you say these people,
who you say? Biased people, I go watch LDBC. Okay? You guys got to quit with that shit. You got to be fair. Okay? Crawford, yeah, he got hurt. He got dropped. Then he got up and he continued to beat the piss out of Mean Machine and hurt him badly and destroyed him. Okay?
No, wait a minute, Kevin.
And it's the same thing with this dude Ennis.
All right, but Kevin, I gotta hold you up because Kevin, I gotta hold you up because otherwise you just go on for hours. Jimmy's asking a good question. You gotta name names. Who are you talking about that's not keeping the same standard?
Because everything you just said, I want for the record. I never said any of the things he just said about Crawford or this. And I always said Evis, Mean Machine, is a talented fucking kid to come out of the amateurs. And he's a well-schooled, excellent counterpuncher and does have zip on his punches. And I believe he hurt Crawford, too.
Recognize no, too.
Recognize? You wanna
it's the opposite of the LBDC. It's the we need a name for the opposite of the LDBC. The people like to trash the LBC. They sit there and they
it's called the Ku Klux Klan.
LDBC, PBC this, Crawford this, Spence that. They're shitting on them every chance they get.
All right, we're not going to get anywhere with Kevin today. We're never going to get anywhere with Kevin because we're not getting straight answers.
And they say with Ennis, they're trying to downplay that win over Lipinets. Lipinets was little. He was too little for him. Listen, Lipinets is a harder fight than Aegis.
No fucking way. You're high. Dude, you're straight high. You're high. Kevin, you're high. If you're trying to say Mean Machine is a softer touch than Lipinets at welterweight, dude, you gotta check the fuck in.
Lipinets has way more heart. We saw that Lamont Peterson fight.
Nobody's talking about heart. Lipinets is a dog. He does go to war. I'd give him all the credit in the world. But if you're trying to say he's a tougher route at 147 than Mean Machine, dude, you need to talk to a counselor. Because this is going to ruin your life.
Mean Machine's got no heart and he's got no gas tank. Two of the biggest combinations you need to be a world-class fighter. The only thing he's got is a puncher's chance. He's got power in the early rounds. If he doesn't get the knockout, he folds and he gashes out.
Did you say he hurt Crawford? Did you admit he hurt Crawford?
Yeah, he hurt him, exactly.
And he hurt Virgil Ortiz. He hurt two what I consider the best welterweights. Did Lipinets at any time ever hurt a welterweight? Even slightly rock a welterweight? No, probably the reason why he fought his whole career at fucking junior welterweight, which was kind of smallish there. And I give the kid all the props in the world. He went up to 147 because he is a dog. That kid will fight anybody. I give Lipinets all the fucking credit in the world for that. But he's not a tougher out than Mean Machine. Just for that sheer punching power alone, bro. And you know that to be true.
Lipinets shows. I would rather have a glass chin. I'd rather have pillow hands than have a terrible gas tank. Give me Paulie Malignaggi's glass hands. Give me his pillow hands. Give me American's glass chin over Mean Machine's power. His power, yeah. His power hasn't done him shit. How many world titles has it won? Shit.
But because, you know why? Because he actually been fighting top guys. Because he does fight better guys than a lot of these welterweights with the amount of fights he has. And does he gas maybe a little bit later, early? A lot of that is because he's a little more muscular than he maybe should be.
Do you give Ortiz credit for hitting him to the body, making him gas?
Right? Some of those body shots were vicious.
Come on, Kevin. You know boxing. You watch boxing enough to know that there was a method to that. He was banging him to the body. And he's hitting him
down, man.
That was a good strategy, but that still doesn't negate the fact that he's got piss poor conditioning. Look at all that muscle he's got, all that muscle mass. That muscle mass needs oxygen. It's the people like that.
I agree that he's kind of built more like a bodybuilder than a boxer.
They have no gas tank.
No gas tank is just not true, man. He might does the muscle hold him back? You're 100% right. The more muscular you are, the more oxygen your body needs. I'll give you credit, and I said it before, Kevin. I do respect your opinion on the game. I think sometimes you troll a little bit just to bust stones. So that's why I'm shocked to hear you say, and if you're being serious, that Lipinets is a tougher route at 140 than Green Machine. That's just that's not fundamentally true.
The thing with Lipinets is he's going to be there for 12 rounds. You're going to be in a dogfight with him.
No, he's not.
With someone like me, you got about two, 3 dangerous rounds of power punching, and then you're good. Then the coast.
You might be right. Listen, brother, you might be right. Listen,
the rest of the fight.
Kevin, Kevin, I'll give you that. You might be right. You might be calling Mean Machine right down the middle. He might be one of those dudes who puts all this shit in. If my chance of beating this dude, I'm not going to box him. My chance, only way to beat him, I'm going to have to take him out and take him out early. Maybe he's throwing all his energy. Maybe it's bad strategy into the first 3 rounds. But it's because he's got monstrous power. It's dangerous to take him on. And if it wasn't for Virgil Ortiz showing some fucking Keones, it would have been a different story, man. I mean, it made me jump up. I'm like, God damn, that boy's hurt. But he shook it off. But I will say this about Lipinets. At 140, he went life and death with Mickey Garcia. That was, to me, I think his best performance.
All right, well, listen, man. Kevin, thank you for your call. You certainly stirred the pot, as you often do. I love it.
Yeah, he does.
But I do have to go because I'm starting to get hungry over here.
You can't handle the truth. You know that movie, You Can't Handle the Truth. Jack Nicholson on your ass.
That's
Come on,
right.
guys.
Hey, Kevin, you have a good day, kid.
Bias.
Hey, Kevin, you
being
gotta.
biased, goofballs.
Kevin. I'm gonna start
Is he
doing
calling
a
you a goofball?
No, he called us goofballs. Kevin, I'm gonna be doing a second Renaissance. Well, there's second Renaissance, and I'm gonna be promoting another channel where the whole shtick is that it's separate from second Renaissance, but it's like second Renaissance, but completely unfiltered. So drop by when we started, all right, man?
Another thing, last point. Big Jim, the comment I made about the comment I made about the dudes on horseback back in the day, there was nothing racial about that.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
That was historical facts.
All right,
I'm
Kevin.
talking historical facts.
I'm not doubting that, Kevin, but I'm saying you were trying to use it like, you know what I'm saying. You know exactly what I'm saying. Let's just not get into that off the air if you want,
Jimmy, he's
not on the show.
I know, but it's the dudes,
He's
it's
playing
the dudes who are trying to like prop up Latino fighters because they think they got a chance to be black fighters. I see it so clear as day what some people are doing. They're
I'm only kidding with you. We're having a party. I mean, I just came home. I haven't seen you in a long time, and I'm breaking your balls, and you're better when you're getting fucking fat.
That's what this is about. That's what it's about with a lot of people.
I'm sorry. I don't know how to offend you.
You can deny it all you want. Not you specifically, Jim, but some people, a lot of people. And it's pathetic. It's pathetic the way some people do that shit.
You fucking piece of
No, I agree that shit is because my thing is this. I don't give a fuck what rapper you're in. Because you know what's so funny, dude? It's not funny, kind of gross, but in a couple of days dead, you fucking shoot somebody, leave them out in the street a couple of days, you can't tell what skin color they are or race. It's fucking stupid, the show. But I just want to say, for that reason, I don't give a fuck about that. I just want to see someone be willing to put their life on the line, something that I'm not willing to do, so I'll pay the money to see it.
All right, listen, I'm starving over here. Kevin, thank you for your call. We'll catch you on the next one.
Fucking hungry, BDA.
I don't want. I'm not even gonna let him finish because every time I ask him something, he just completely, avoids.
It's just like you ask him a direct pointed question. Yeah. He pauses and just goes off with completely different.
It's like, hey, Kevin, I really appreciate your calls, man. Really appreciate it. And another thing, it's like, shut up, man.
He's just being little fucking manners.
No. You insulted him a little bit.
You
a little bit.
A little bit.
I can't have it. You know, I can't do it, Henry. You know, can't do it.
Yeah, I can't do it, man. I can't do it anymore. Like, especially on an empty stomach, I
can't have her coming over here.
Well, actually, before we go, because Gonzalo's being here. Gonzalo, how you doing, man?
Hey, how's it going, BDA? How's it going, Jimmy?
Doing fantastic.
What's going on, my brother?
Chilling, just listening.
Nice. How's the weather over in the Philippines?
It's nice. It's nice.
Nice, brother. So what did you think of Rigondeaux's performance last night? Give us your 2 cents on that, brother.
Yeah, it wasn't good. I thought, that Casimero was there for the taking, and that really hasn't changed. Casimero's performance wasn't good either. I know the other guy was running Rigondeaux, but Casimero was fleeing away. He was punching at the ropes. He was losing his footing, and that left hand that Rigondeaux didn't land. If he fights a guy like Nonito Donaire will land that left hand, right? That's my thinking, and that hasn't changed. So, Casimero did look pretty bad himself. Although the other guy was running, and it's hard to chase a guy with that much experience that doesn't want to fight.
I agree with you, brother.
It was a horrible performance. It was even bad for Rigondeaux standards. Because he displayed the footwork to tell us that he can fight, actually. That he still got the legs. But, in that fight, he could have won. He could have won because he was making the other guy miss if he would have let go of the left hand a little bit more often.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what makes it all the more disappointing. That there was actually a shot for him to win, but instead he thought he was gonna. I don't know. I think he thought Casimero was gonna knock him out with the first shot he hit.
That's what he thought. Exactly, BDA. That's what he thought. He thought he was gonna get knocked out. He said, "I'm not gonna commit to, any straight lefts because I'm afraid he's gonna hit me with something back and I'm gonna get hurt." That's how he thought.
And he did catch him too. He caught him with some kind of lefts, some nice ones. I thought he was gonna be able to fucking land that left all night. That's what I thought was gonna happen. Because I thought Casimero just gets too wild, and I thought all the experience Rigondeaux has, he was gonna, put it on the line there. But
More likely.
Unfortunately, it didn't go down that way. Sorry.
Casimero will probably get bombed out by Donier, definitely by Inoue. I agree with all that. But, like, aren't you happy it's not Rigondeaux that got this decision with that performance? Like,
oh, yeah, fuck yeah. I was thinking the same thing. They can't reward that. You can't.
Yeah. Can you imagine him going into an Inoue fight or Donier rematch? Who would be interested, right? Who would be interested in a fight like that where this guy just ran the whole fight?
Well, there'd be dude, listen, there's a reason why guys he was fighting, his opponents were getting more money than he was. He would have to make fights. He was getting $600,000, I think, once he fought for one of his title defenses. He got under $500,000, and his opponent got closer to $1 million. Think about that, because he had to do things like that just to get fucking on television.
That's the thing. You had to do something impressive. And this guy, he came in with the 2 gold medals, and people said, oh, he must be good. 2010, he fought Cordoba on I think it was the undercard of a Pacquiao fight, one of those fights he had in Texas. And he stung the joint out. And you could say, well, he didn't have that much experience. Okay. But then just subsequently, the Donaire fight, he's been riding that win since 2013. It's been 8 years for Pete's sakes. Let's let it go.
Well, somebody said something, BDA, on Twitter. Tell me if this makes sense, because I don't know the timeline. They said when he fucking a few fights ago kind of like surprised everybody, put the kid out, was like fighting like a fighter. Somebody said that was his first, I don't know if this is true, first fight with the PBC, and it was on a one-time deal type thing. It was because after he won, they signed him to a multi-fight offer. Is that true? I'm just saying, if that's true, that could make sense. He wants to look good, so make sure you get that contract. Like every free agent always puts up their best stats on their last year of a contract.
Exactly. Hey, you know what?
That's 100% true. Yep.
That sounds a plus. That's why maybe, yeah, and that even makes it worse because it shows you that he can indeed, when he wants to, he can engage you a little bit more. But he just doesn't give a shit. Like you said, Jimmy, I think this guy's perverse. You know what? It wouldn't surprise me. That's why he wears those extra large trunks, because he's hiding his heart on. Every time he hears the booze, that he wears those trunks, he wants to hide that shit. He's probably rock
That's
hard.
awesome. That's
what a jackass, man. What a jackass. Anyway, listen. Hit the like, everybody. Funny. Hit the like. Don't forget to hit the like. Really appreciate it. But it is time to go. My stomach's rumbling over here. So I want to give a shout out.
Stomach screeching.
Stomach's always rumbling.
Gonzalo, you still there too?
Yeah.
Did Gonzalo bounce? Real quick, just 2 seconds, because BDA's got to eat, and I feel bad because I cut you off. Virgil Ortiz, Raiders performance.
Oh, yes.
He did pretty good. He gets his get back when he gets punched. He responds. I think maybe, like BDA said, he's got a little bit of Antonio Barrera, and that might make for great fights. He shows to be having pretty solid chin, but down the line he's gonna meet his match, and he'll still be. That's not a knock on him, but we'll see what happens. I want to really see
rate it A through F. A through F. Well, how would you? What would you grade him?
He passes with flying colors. I'll give him an A.
Yep.
A minus.
Excellent. Yep.
Whoa, that's high mark right there. That's a high grade right there. A minus, especially from
Gonzalo. I respect Gonzalo's opinion. That's what I wanted to know. Yeah, no, I do. I agree with you 100%. I give him an A minus too. The minus because he got caught. So you can't give him a straight A.
But contrary to what Kevin from Chicago said, but I mean, Kavaluskas dropped Crawford. They didn't count it, but it was clear knockdown. But against Ortiz, it was more of a tangling. I mean, he hurt him. Don't get me wrong, but he didn't drop him either. So we can't really hold that same standard. That's one of the reasons why.
But he did catch him a few times, though. He caught him a few times. He got a little gun shy there after he got rocked. Just not gun shy, but it's not, stupid terminology. It's smarting him back up. He went out there and did it right. He worked behind the jab. You know what I mean? He didn't get reckless. He didn't try to jump into some, ridiculous 5-punch combo. He respected the kid's power.
Oh,
you could tell.
You know what? And let me ask Gonzalo this, because I think I mentioned this last night. Gonzalo, what about fucking Kavaluskas? Every time he would get dropped, he would jump right back without taking his time. What's that all about?
I really don't know, BDA. He's a pretty good fighter. But yeah, he should have taken his time. And I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think
if you're asking why does he is he capable of it? All right, I'll tell you what. I was explaining this. Somebody told me this before. Some people, when they get knocked out, they go out, right? Because again, a flash knockout is like when you just kind of go goofy enough in the head that you go down. because you just kind of, just enough to go out. Some people bounce back from that quicker. I guess people with thicker craniums, or it was explained to me that some people can get just like that flash, be almost out on their feet for a second and stay on their feet. I think that's what it is. I don't think he was seriously, well, even now, what's his name? Ortiz said after the fight, to his credit, he really wasn't hurt. That was more of a flash knockdown. So he actually, remember, I don't know if you saw the interview at the end. He actually said that, which...
Yeah. That's interesting, though. That's interesting. Because he would get dropped and jump right back up. I'm thinking, why don't you take the full, take a knee, take the 8 count to get up, make some time, try to stall for time. No, he would get right back up. It's like, man, you're...
Well, because he wasn't sucking wind. That's why Kevin says, like, he's a fucking front runner. Dude, did you see that? I didn't see a kid taking gulping air. I didn't see him opening his mouth to breathe.
It's probably his gameness. It's his gameness and his aggression. When you're in that train of thought, it's hard to, come away from that.
Excellent point.
Type of thinking.
Well, listen, we covered it all. Shout out to everybody that joined the panel. Recognize Jimmy Gonzalo, boxing chief, and of course Steve Kim for dropping by. Thank you, fellas. Thank you, fellas. And don't forget.
My pleasure.
Indeed, man. Don't forget OJ Simpson. It's happening. Second Renaissance. It's happening this week. The OJ trial. We're gonna revisit the whole circus that took place. So look out for that one. Second Renaissance. That's our non-boxing channel. And other than that, man, thank you guys for joining us. Really appreciate it. Shout out to everybody that donated the super chat. For some reason, I can't see all the names, but shout out to everybody. Shout out to everybody also that joined the membership program. The names are right here. Really appreciate it, guys. I'll be dropping the... it's already done. I just have to export it. The Benavides film analysis to really see just how good he is. So the BDA members will be able to see that one. And other than that, don't forget to hit the like on the way out. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And that's about it. Really, fellas, take it easy. Thank you for watching. Have yourselves
Hasta la próxima, gente. Hasta la próxima, mi gente.
Have yourselves a fantastic evening. Let's go.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you.
I'm disappointed in